And a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the Clutch Drop Cup Series on the Flatout Racing Network. Tonight, race number 17 of 20 is about to take place here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia. Race number 2 of the playoffs. The playoff field gets cut down from 12 to 8 tonight. And we welcome you inside the FRN broadcast booth. My name is Carlos Zimmerman. Glad to be back in the FRN booth. Alongside me, as always, is my good friend Sam Dyer. Sam, this is going to be a really slick race, if you will. The track is hot. These guys are ready to go, and it should be a fun 200 laps around the mile-and-a-half track of Atlanta.
It's elimination racing. It's going to be loose. It's going to be slick. And these drivers are slightly terrified. 200 laps are going to be ran here. And I was looking at the track temp. During practice, it went climbing up. When it started out at 117 degrees track temp, it went all the way up to 130. During qualifying, it was at 131. The start of today's race, the track temp, 131 degrees. There's going to be no grip on this course, and the corners are going to be tough and really looseness off the corner.
Tyler Riggs drew the pole as he didn't drew the pole. He forced his way onto the pole with a 29.258 speed as the starting grid's going to roll at the bottom of your screen. Sam, you look at the points. There's a lot of drivers that are kind of in must-win situations tonight. A couple of them should be able to point their way in if they get lucky, but it's going to be a tough task for everyone that's sitting 9th through 12th right now that's on the chopping block.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely tough for those drivers that are 9th down 12th, but they still have a shot. I think from about 6th down to the bubble spot of 8th place is where we find ourselves with Dylan Stipe, as well as Robert Kenny, as well as Tristan Maher. Those drivers are inside of our top 8 trying to transfer their way to our next couple of races. And then the drivers behind them, you got Justin Munsell, David Durant, Philip Scott, and Nathan Hall. Now, Philip Scott and Nathan Hall, I think they might be in a must-win scenario, or at least try to get every single point possible. Now, neither of them got the pole. Tyler Riggs got that, which is 3 bonus points. And the rest of the bonus points that you can get is winning the stages, which we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers really searching for tires when all the rest of the season, a lot of drivers wait until the end of the stage to get tires. I don't think that's going to be the case here today.
No, it's not going to be the case with how just the way this track runs. Stage breaks will be at lap 60 for stage 1, lap 120 for stage 2, and then we'll sprint for the final 80 laps here at Atlanta. Hot sun bearing down on this racetrack. Sam, for the playoff drivers and the drivers trying to maybe play spoiler to the playoff drivers, what are the keys to victory here tonight in Hampton, Georgia?
Save your tires the best that you can. That means don't be sliding into these corners. You got to arc it smoothly so you don't be squealing those tires too much and using them up. Also, think about fuel. You want to stay in the drafts, try to save fuel so you can stay out there a little bit longer, try to have the freshest tires at the end. But I think the biggest key for the drivers that are already inside of our top 8, finish in the top 15 and make sure you get stage points at the end of stage 1 and 2. For a lot of these drivers, we got to be thinking it's going to be very tough. I think Michael Tellier, Tom Bourne, Bronson Stafford, they might be automatically locked in with Shane Terrian, who locked himself in last week at Kentucky just based off of points. Everyone else, question marks over their cars.
As the pace car makes the hard left-hand turn of the pit lane, we're glad you're with us on the Flatout Racing Network. Race number 17 in the Clutch Drop Cup Series is green. Tyler Riggs and Brandon King get us underway, and we are racing under the hot Georgia sun. Tyler Riggs takes the pack into turn 1 and 2. Single file nearly with the top 2. One of the newcomers, Gary Peck, trying to clear that I believe Bronson Stafford car on the outside as they head down the back straightaway. 3-wide move here for Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford with Peck in the middle.
Yeah, that's going to be Terrian, who's going to be trying to make it work on the inside, pushing Stafford out of the way and trying to get by this 22 machine. Just not able to get it just yet, but they're still side by side for 3rd place. And like I said, Gary Peck going to be one of those new drivers. We've got 2 of them in the 22 and the 44 as we're waiting to see when drivers are going to be putting on the best moves. But so far, side by side for 3rd place. About to be 3-wide again as Shane Terrian gets extremely loose and almost loses it.
Car in the wall further back, believe that was the 20 of Dylan Stipe, was in a 3-wide situation with a couple other cars, and another car just got up into the fence. I believe that may have been I'm trying to find him here. It's the 8 of Philip Scott that got the wall there, now getting passed by Nathan Hall. Couple playoff drivers having some early trouble here as we're on lap 3.
Yeah, and Stipe can't have this. He was inside of the top 8, just needing to have a good, consistent day. Now all the way back in 23rd place. Not good for the 20 machine that's been consistent all year long. Doesn't have a win. Pointing its way into the playoffs. It might be finding himself not being able to move on to the next round.
Number 14 is Spencer Hardison, who is trying to just be one of those guys that plays spoiler, not in the running for the playoffs, trying to make that outside line work as he just got around another one of the newcomers, the 44 of Jesse Powers. Now he'll drop it to the inside right behind David Duran, who is a playoff driver. Meanwhile, at the front, it's Tyler Riggs just running away with it, and now we've lost Tyler Riggs. And there he is. There he's back. Had a little bit of an internet issue. Gary Peck riding the way outside. That's going to allow Bronson Stafford to get a run here, but he's going to get slowed down by that 89 of Brandon King. King kind of being a moving pick right now. Are they going to split him 3 wide? Yes, they will as they head to 1.
Bronson Stafford's got a way in there, but it's going to be King who really gets pinched, dropping down to 4th place. But really, right now, Bronson Stafford and Peck, they continue to stay side by side, but you see that King, he's dropping back and making a hornet's nest while everyone accordioning up behind the 89 machine.
Derek Schilling, Justin Munsell, one of the cars on the chopping block right now. He's in this. Mike Tellier way up near that wall. They're going to be 3 wide coming off the corner. It's so tight off the corner. Schilling, Bourne, Tellier, and Munsell, but they settle it out to 2 wide action. Good racing out of these veteran drivers here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. And Schilling really pinching Bourne up the racetrack as Schilling's going to try and maintain the top 5. Good run for him so far.
Yeah, great qualifying run for Schilling right now, but Schilling, most of the season, has been one of those cars that goes a lap down and really not having great days so far. Running well, but around those Luminary guys in, we've been seeing Schilling and the Luminary machines having some contact these last couple of weeks. We'll see if it continues as they're almost 3 wide again.
Tom Bourne, he knows Derek Schilling very, very well from previous interactions with him, as now Schilling's going to start falling further back. Was in 5th about a lap and a half ago. Now he's back to the 8th position, still trying to fight Tom Bourne in that G Fuel yellow 54. And it looks like he'll fall even further back into the clutches of Mike Tellier. Bronson Stafford, out of all that, the highest of the Luminary guys, in that number 61 now, trying to run down Tyler Riggs. He's got a little bit of gap between him and the unsponsored 22 of Gary Peck. So Sam, he should be able to just suck up to that 26, but Riggs, a lot of speed.
Yeah, Riggs seemed to be just lingering off these last couple of laps, letting Stafford catch up to him to then power his way and trying to stay at least 4/10 ahead. Still close enough for the draft to be effective here for these drivers on the front and back stretch. But I'm looking at some of the drivers that are inside of our top 5. A lot of them have already, like Bronson Stafford, Shane Tarian, and Tom Bourne. They're drivers that are looking very good to lock themselves into the playoffs. It's Justin Munsell, who's in 4th place right now under fire. Who has just gotten past Shane Tarian and Tom Bourne a couple of laps ago. This 89 machine had a terrible week last week at Kentucky, trying to rebound and doing a great job in 4th place.
Yeah, he's kind of had that up and down season, if you will. He's gotten wins this year that got him into those playoffs, so he's going to try the high side here around the 22 of Gary Peck. Let's see if he's going to be able to make it work here going down into 1. But Munsell has had those races too. Compared to all the other Luminary guys, it's really hit or miss for if you're Munsell, if you will. For a while it was Robert Kenny, but lately it's been Munsell that's had the up and down weeks, week in and week out. So he's going to need a good one tonight, as they are all going to freight train the 22 of Gary Peck, push the 22 back to 6th now, as Bourne is going to more than likely clear him, and indeed he will. Luminary running 2, 3, 4, and 5 up in this top 5. Robert Kenny lingering back in 13th.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now is Gary Peck might have a very good 5-lap machine. So
he just got the wall!
Peck and Tom Bourne brushing the wall there. Peck able to save it and not hit the inside wall, but losing another position there for the 22 machine. And it just looks like he's lost all grip to the rear end. It is getting way too hot for that machine. And also, the setup just may not be set up for the longer run as the track continues to get hotter and hotter.
You know, we talked to Dylan Stipe pre-race, and he was saying that if these guys open up loose, it's gonna make for a very, very ill-handling race car as the run progresses, and you know, as the green flag runs go, it's just gonna get worse. And Gary Peck now is gonna slide all the way back to 10th, and he was in 3rd just 2.5 laps ago. He's just gonna continue to fall back in that unsponsored 22.
Another driver that has fallen back and almost all the way back to last place. It's going to be Derek Schilling, who's all the way back to 22nd after starting in 7th place. Probably one of the best qualifying runs we've seen from the 69 machine. Brushed the wall. That damage really affecting the 69.
On board with that number 69, the Marine Corps 69 at Derek Schilling riding ahead. You just see Evan Coleman, Dylan Stipe, and Nathan Hall just ahead of him as we got one car down in the pits. Bob Carroll already pitting. Might be an unscheduled stop for the 27.
Yeah, looks like this is not the timing that the 27 was hoping to come in. And I'm going to take a quick look back to see exactly what happened to the 27 machine. But this looks eerily similar to what taking out the 27 earlier, as he's got heavy damage on the right side.
Looks like may have gotten a piece of the wall, so early trouble for non-playoff driver Bob Carroll. One car that has actually started to really slide back, that's Brandon King. He's in 9th right now, still hanging on in the top 10, but was up in 2nd about 5-6 laps ago. So he's might be fighting an ill-handling race car, as well as the Luminary guys up at the front, trying to keep with each other. Kind of a little bit of a gap between them. Stafford's kind of on his own. Munsel's on his own. Terrian's got Bourne behind him about 3/10, and then you got the Mike Tellier machine just behind him. So everyone pretty spread out amongst the top 10. You have to get back around to the 11th spot, around Robert Kenny, the 5th Luminary driver, to have some even remotely close side-by-side action, as he's riding right behind the 2 of Matt Dyer, who's just inside the top 10.
Yeah, when we're talking about drivers that have been falling back and having their issues, let's talk about some of those drivers moving up. Jacob Grant, in that window you were talking about of those drivers, he's started back in 21st position, now battling side-by-side for 11th and loses that 7 machine, but still holding on.
A good save by the number 7 of Jacob Grant. You see battling happening right behind him. Saw that car kind of fishtail through 1 and 2, but he hangs on to it, but he'll have to try and set up Robert Kenny for another pass in just a little bit. Bob Carroll, he's taking his car behind the wall. He'll be our first retiree of the evening, We did have 24 drivers lay down a qualifying time, or give or take a few. Austin Gretorix, he did not take the green flag, as you see Matt Dyer get out of shape there, dealing with the 89. So the 13 not going to start this race today. Wasn't playoff eligible, so he is just going to be probably watching his teammates at Luminary, trying to pick up a win here again. Shane Terrian, of course, winning last week at Kentucky. A solid win for him that's got him locked in to the next round. We'll see if one of his teammates is going to join him. But Tyler Riggs is pretty much in cruise control right now. Stafford's closed back in a little bit, but not enough to probably put pressure on him.
Yeah, it's been staying around the same area. It hasn't really changed that much, and it's really impressive on both of Tyler Riggs having such a great qualifying setup for himself that also can translate to the race setup. Has been looking around, a lot of drivers in the middle of the pack, they've been getting wicked loose out of 2, and that's where a lot of the damage has been made to that wall as drivers continue to brush it more and more. And I think we're expecting to see possibly a caution here in the next probably 5 to 10 laps with how loose some of these drivers have been and with how close these battles are in the middle of the pack. They got to be careful, but Tyler Riggs, Bronson Stafford, great runs, as well as Justin Munsell and Shane Terrian that are just pulling away from the rest of the field.
There's really 2 distinct packs of cars that are really tight-knit. You see the first one right here. Jacob Grant, he was able to get around Matt Dyer, and now he's clearing the 89 of Brandon King. So move Jacob Grant into the top 10. Dyer going to follow suit behind him. And then just behind them, about a second back, you have the 44 of Jesse Powers, and then a lot of side-by-side action. Philip Scott, one of the playoff drivers, trying to get off the chopping block and get into the next round of the playoffs. There, he's dealing with the 25 of Caleb Smith. Gary Peck, after being inside the top 5 early on, he has cascaded himself all the way back to the 16th position, and likely that's where he's going to sit for at least until we get to the green flag pit stops, or like Sam said, a caution period that might be looming in the next 5-6 laps. Speaking of which, Sam, we didn't talk about it pre-race. What's the fuel window, or in this case, tire window for these guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking around lap 35 if you're running by yourself, so that'd be Tyler Riggs's thoughts of 35 is probably the first you can go. If you're utilizing draft, maybe about 2 to 3 laps further than the rest of the field. So anywhere from 35 to possibly 38 laps is the window most of these drivers are looking for, and I'm expecting them to try to run it all the way dry. But Tyler Riggs has been caught. Bronson Stafford on the tail end of that 26 machine.
Battle on now for the lead as they exit off of 2 and onto the backstretch. You see Munsell and Terry in pursuit as well. Munsell within a second of these guys. Stafford all over the back bumper of Tyler Riggs trying to make that pass.
Yeah, and right now, Bronson's just trying to show, hey, I'm here. And if I have to bump you a little bit, give you a little bit more loose, I might have to do it. And honestly, it's possible just to give a little bit of a bump, let them know, hey, I'm here. If you want to get out of the way, we can do that. Or try to hold your ground. It might give you another bump as Bronson try to get the run on the outside. It looks like he might get to the quarter panel. Coming out.
Oh, he got him.
Turn number 2.
Oh, he got him. To the outside goes Bronson Stafford. They will go double wide. Through 3 and 4, who's going to have the advantage? You think the inside line has the advantage, but that middle groove has speed as well as they come to the stripe, and it's going to be Bronson Stafford leading the lap, his first of the race. You don't get bonus points for leading a lap, but, you know, it feels good to just keep yourself at the front. Still battling, though, as Tyler Riggs is still hanging in there on the inside.
Yeah, the driver's going to be battling to see where they're going to be lined up for the end of stage 1. As right now, Justin Munsell got ran down by Shane Terrian for the battle for 3rd place, but Bronson Stafford confirms the pass for the lead and now tries to pull away as Tyler Riggs, he might have hit his marker of just using up too much of those tires, trying to hold off the 61 machine.
The G Fuel Energy Ice Shatter Toyota to the point in the 61 of Bronson Stafford. Riggs settles into second. Gap back to Shane Terrian, about a second and 2/10. As he's got Munsell up there as well. Impressive run so far. Also for the 3 of Mike Tellier. You look at Tellier, he had 3 wins earlier on in the year. With his performance at Kentucky last week, it should be enough to get him into the next round at least, you know, unless something really freaky happens. If someone on the chopping block wins this race and Tellier wrecks out, that's going to be the issue that he'll run into, but he's in a comfortable spot right now, but he might be setting up Munsell here for a pass.
Yeah, and Munsell was got passed by Shane Terrian, and Munsell was running in that 3rd position for about 5 laps. Really wasn't close enough to utilize the draft of our front 2, and so once he got caught up by Shane Terrian and Mike Tellier here, 98 machine's kind of just sitting in kind of a sitting duck at this moment. We'll wait and see what the 3 machine's going to do. Looking at some of the drivers that are inside of our top 10, though, that have some speed and look quick. Jacob Grant in that 7 machine. He's now in the top 10, running in 9th place in front of Robert Kenny. He started back in 21st position, but one of the only drivers running as fast as our leader, Bronson Stafford, and he is wicked quick, and after cutting through all the traffic in the field, he's done a great job putting himself in 9th place.
Might be a sleeper we have to watch out for if he's got that speed. First car ducking into the pits. Our winner from Kentucky last week, Shane Terrian.
Yeah, and Shane Terrian, I'm going to keep an eye out on this 83 machine, see what the pit stop is like, because it's possible that Shane might be just coming in for fuel and taking off, but this is going to be a good warning and to see who's going to go for tires and if tires start right now.
It's into his stall. Looks like it's going to be a fuel-only stop. Looks like it was in there for a little bit, so an 8-second stop. That might have been packing it full of fuel there for that 83 is Shane Terrian. He has crossed the commitment line and is back out onto the racing surface. He'll fall the lap down to his teammate Bronson Stafford. But interesting move out of the current playoff points leader.
Yeah, and this is right inside the window of making it. And I feel like Shane knows that, hey, got a quick car, just got to get through this field and get going as he comes out right next to Jacob Grant. And we'll see who else is going to be following suit with this early pit stop. And also keep an eye on some of these drivers that are needing points, like David Durand. I think this 24 machine might be in one of those thoughts of, I need to pit, take tires, and get as many stage points as possible because he's outside of the top 8. He needs 7 points to put himself inside of the top 8. We'll see where it comes. Matt Dyer, next car into the pits.
Matt Dyer, Spencer Hardison there in the pits. You just saw David Durand make the pass on Tom Bourne, so maybe expecting Bourne to come in this time by as he left the 24 by pretty easily. So just watch for them here as Hardison and Dyer are making their stops. And I called it correctly. Here comes Tom Bourne, Bronson Stafford, the leader. He is in as well.
And Tyler Riggs now going to be gifted the lead once again, and also Justin Munsell following suit, and Jacob Grant coming in this time by, and expecting a lot of drivers coming in this time by. And then we're going to see of those that feel comfortable staying out. All the drivers that have pitted so far, except for Matt Dyer, have gone for no tires, just fuel. The 2 machine did go for tires. A bold move by the 2 of Matt Dyer.
Trouble for the 98 of Justin Munsell. I think he missed his stall, and he's... Oh my goodness, that's a heartbreaker right there as he just drove right through pit lane, didn't make a move to the pits, and his car is fishtailing on the apron, trying to get it back onto the racing surface. This is going to cost that 98 dearly.
This is almost just as bad as what happened last week at Kentucky. Justin Munsell, 3 points out of making it into the good. He just needs to beat out Tristan Maher and make sure that David Duran doesn't have any issues, but he locks up and might have been caught speeding into pit road this time by.
Oh my goodness! I think he definitely got caught speeding because that car ended up in the half of the tires into the grassy section of the infield here at Atlanta. There's no doubt in my mind he got caught speeding. This is going to be an extended stay for the 98 in the pits.
Keep our eye on it. If he's in there longer than 14 seconds, it is most likely he's going to have to stay in there, which most of the time a penalty if you have to stay in speeding is about 28 seconds. But it looks like he didn't get caught as that 98 machine is easily taking off.
So he'll return to the racing surface, 14.4 second pit stop. David Duran, he is in to make his first pit stop as the clouds have blocked the sun in certain portions of the racetrack, might allow the racetrack to cool just a little bit and give some more grip to these drivers who just got some 4 fresh tires. Looks like it's only covering turns 3 and 4, so it's not covering the entire racetrack as Duran is into the pits. He'll be getting tires.
Yeah, Duran's in, and then also Mike Tellier, of those drivers that were inside of the top 5. Only driver of those drivers to come into the pits and take tires. So that's a factor for the 3 machine that is trying to just confirm himself with winning this stage. Believe that would lock this 3 in to the playoff, to the next round of the playoffs.
One thing we missed during the Munsell debacle is his teammate, Robert Kenny, a long stay in the pits. I don't know if it was to repair damage or something went wrong on that machine. He is now 3 laps down after spending about a minute and a half in the pits.
I'm going to go back and see exactly what happened, but it doesn't look like it's damage. It might have just been an issue speeding on a pit road, possibly here for the 34 machine, but major issues for Robert Kenny, and he slid his way through the pit box and got caught speeding. Actually sliding into pit road itself, and then had issues, and now going to be in last place for the 34 machine. That was not really confirmed, right on the edge of making it into the next round, but a lot of cars having issues for the 34. He just had to go 4 wide for a second there.
34 is still clean and green, though. We've stayed green since the beginning of this race, as the 34 with those fresh tires is going to try and make up as much time as he can. Just tough breaks for them. Only cars left to come down and make a pit stop would be the 89 of Brandon King, the 44 of Jesse Powers, the 22 of Gary Peck, and another playoff driver in the 28 of Nathan Hall. Those are the only 4 that have yet to have made their pit stop, and we're about 2 laps away from that window shutting on green flag pit stops. Should expect King this time by, and he does slid it a little bit, which might help him with his speed as he'll get it in. Jesse Powers follows him in, as does Gary Peck and Nathan Hall. So all 4 remaining drivers have hit the pits, and that should hand the lead back over to the 61 of Bronson Stafford when he comes around.
Bronson Stafford trying to hold off, and a big issue is Mike Tellier coming with a head of steam in that 3 machine. As the 61 of Bronson Stafford did not take tires, but the 3 took all 4 and running about 2 seconds faster. You can just see the difference of these speeds through the corners. Here comes the 3 machine on the inside.
And the 3 of Mike Tellier, that might be the move to win the stage and solidify himself into the next round of the playoffs. So it's going to be a very daunting round, if you will, Sam. It's going to be Talladega, and then you have to shift it back down to the 1.5 miles of Chicagoland, an afternoon race at Chicagoland in Joliet, Illinois. Going to be a fun round number 2, and it's going to be a very tricky one, especially with Talladega, to open up the round. It's going to really set aside the contenders from the pretenders, if you will, and Tellier's looking to get that early advantage into that second round with winning stage number 1.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see how these drivers are going to react with, again, it's only 2 races around, and at Dega and then Chicagoland, it's so difficult to tell where drivers are going to be landing themselves, but David Durand, I was talking about that, we're going to have some of those drivers that are outside of the top 8, going to have to make their charge forward. Durand took all 4 tires up to 4th place now, and might be poisoning himself to finish in 2nd place here in stage number 1.
Yeah, wouldn't it be a huge benefit for the 24 as he blows right by Shane Terrian. Matt Dyer, who also took 4 tires, it's benefiting him as well. Want to point it out, folks, they had 6 sets today. The one that was on the car when they gridded, and then the 5 sets in the pits. So of the guys that just took tires, they're down to 4 sets remaining. Should be enough to get them to the finish if we stay clean and green all the way to the end. But if cautions start popping up in the middle portion of this race, it's going to really have to put strategy into the minds of these drivers as Durand takes the high road around Bronson Stafford. And so move David Durand up to 2nd place. Great run so far for the 24 of Durand. I know he's a playoff driver and he got his way in. He's on the chopping block right now if he doesn't get a good finish, but give a call to him. Having a good run and playing the strategy right up to 2nd behind Mike Tellier by 5.5 seconds.
Other drivers that are doing the same exact strategy, that's going to be Caleb Smith as well as Philip Scott. Philip Scott came in 11th in points, 11 points back from Tristan Maher, and needed a great day. If he could somehow find himself in the top 5-4 of these drivers and somehow can sneak his way with a lot of bonus points here, he could be finding himself trying to steal away a position from some of the drivers that we just saw have major issues. Tristan Maher's back in 20th place. Robert Kenny's had issues, and he's right on the bubble of possibly being knocked out of our top 8. It is a lot of tension here, especially with just being 2 races before the next round kicks in.
Looking at Philip Scott, if everything plays out into his favor with 17 laps left in stage number 1, he should be able to get his way all the way up to the 4th position, and that is going to be huge for that number 8 to get as many points as he can. He just gets by Shane Terry, and he's going to bring Caleb Smith with him. So big stuff out of these guys that are playing the strategy card early, and I'm watching Durand here. He's cut the lead on Tellier down by 0.3. It's not quick enough to try and run him down before the end of this stage. Tellier likely going to win this stage unless something crazy happens, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm still trying to go further back, seeing who's trying to pass who. Scott a little loose on the backstretch, still going, and now hanging on in that 5th spot. Going to be a good stage payout for that number 8.
Yeah, and then also Stipe, who we saw have some issues early in this race, was all the way back in 21st position for a time there. He's now going to go with the 4-tire strategy as well, and right now in 11th place, trying to find himself inside of the top 10 as he's trying to get by Tom Bourne, and might be able to do so here. So stage points also going to be going to the 20 machine that is inside of our top 8, and just trying to get as many points as possible so he doesn't lose out points-wise.
The only other driver on the lead lap that went with 4 tires, that is the 98 of Justin Munsell. A good recovery from that pit road miscue, having to drive through the first time and then bring it back through. He's hanging on the lead lap. It did not do him in, much like me and Sam had thought. So he's hanging in there, Sam, in that number 98, running 13th right now. He's going to try and crack his way up into this top 10 before stage end.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but right now I think the ultimate goal right now for Justin Munsell is stay on the lead lap. There are a lot of cars 1 lap down, and if we don't have another pit stop here in stage 1, we're going to be finding a lot of these drivers most likely either going to take the wave around or stay a lap down. Robert Kenny 2 laps down, and so is going to be Justin Belmonte 2 laps down.
Belmonte not a playoff driver. Kenny, he entered in tonight in 7th, 5 points to the good. If I'm just doing my live points correctly, with where they run right now, Munsell and Durand would push their way in, and Kenny and Maher would be out. Scott, he'd be just close, if I'm not mistaken. I think he may be able to push his way in. Not entirely sure. He might be on the outside looking in as well on that. Do want to point out another thing. Spencer Hardison has taken his car behind the wall, and his day has come to an end for that number 14.
Yeah, and that's just because the walls have been so difficult for these drivers. If you can just carry a little bit too much speed, get back on the throttle, that outside wall just sneaks up on you, and you find yourself either scraping it and throwing your car into the inside wall, or you completely pile drive that outside wall coming off the corner, and it's just not a good day because we've already lost 2 drivers, like you said, Spencer Hardison as well as Bob Keller.
So looking up in through this field, David Durand picking his way through lap traffic. He's gotten the lead from Mike Tellier down to 4.7 so he's slowly chipping away at it. It's just not enough time for him to try and challenge Tellier for the stage victory. I'm looking on the track map here to see what Tellier's going to be dealing with. He's going to have 3 lap cars just ahead of him, the 51 of Evan Coleman, the 69 of Derek Schilling, and the 44 of Jesse Powers. After that, nothing really to worry about. So Tellier on cruise control right now to win the stage. Durand is second. Matt Dyer is up to third. Philip Scott has reached that eclipse point to the 4th spot. Caleb Smith, non-playoff driver, going to get some 6 stage points here if he stays in 5th. And then you got Stafford, Terry, and Dylan Stipe, Tyler Riggs, and then the 7 of Jacob Grant to round out that group. But I'm looking at that 98 of Munsell. He's coming in a hurry to try and catch that number 10 and get a stage point for himself.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of hard work right now that Justin Munsell is trying to put down, but he's got to make sure he hits every single mark. And right now, running only about 3 to 5 tenths faster than the cars in front of him. The math adds up that he's possibly can find himself in the top 10 drivers. And I'm looking at some battles. Philip Scott, we saw that he got up to 4th place, but there's a potential. Matt Dyer, he's on 3 lap older tires, and this 8 machine is catching the 2. Could be finding Philip Scott with 3rd place bonus points.
As he passes the lap machine and Nathan Hall, he was really essentially in a must-win situation, but Scott got the wall, and then Nathan Hall power slammed the wall as well. That's going to kill a lot of momentum for the 8, and the 28 just smacked that outside wall. Big buckle on the right side for the Hall machine.
Yeah, Nathan Hall, he came in 12th in points, was hoping for a better day, but that slam might be putting the nail in the coffin for Nathan Hall's day. And Philip Scott, that damage looks awful right now on that right side. Still trying to run well, but that is some extremely harsh damage for the 8 machine.
You're going to see it as the camera flies by here. You'll see a good amount of damage on that 8. Indeed, he does, and it's a tough break. He was really starting to run down the 2 of Matt Dyer, and then the car just sucked up into the fence in turn 2. Pretty much simultaneously with the 28 of Nathan Hall. So Scott looks like he'll just try to limp his car to 4th place, get some damage repaired in the pits, and then try to rebound at a later time.
Yeah, and this is just hurting him overall. I mean, you're looking for those fresh tires, keep your car clean throughout stage 1 and 2, and then the final stage, make sure you can at least get a top 10 finish. With those extra bonus points, you should be finding yourself possibly pointing your way in, but this is just disastrous and on a plan that was looking so great right now for Philip Scott. Luckily in 4th place, but we'll have to wait and see how bad that damage is. But he's not gaining any more time on Dyer. If anything, he's losing time, and he should be gaining.
He's running similar lap times to Dyer. That time by, they were only separated by 17 100ths of a second. So, or excuse, yeah, 100ths of a second. So that shows you that. Durand still running quicker laps than Tellier as Scott's trying to pick his way through lap traffic. Had a car down on the apron. I believe that was the, may have been the 69 of Schilling. Indeed, it was. So trouble continues for that number 69, who started off really well. 5 laps to go in the stage. Tellier in control. Durand second. Matt Dyer third. Philip Scott fourth. And Caleb Smith in the 5th spot with Dylan Stipe, who's worked his way up into 6th. Bronson Stafford 7th. Shane Terry in 8th. Tyler Riggs 9th. And then Jacob Grant in 10th. But don't look now, Sam. Munsell within 7 tenths of that number 7.
He's got 5 laps to try to get past these drivers in front of him. He's going to find himself with 3 drivers on the lead lap with the 98, and then the lap car of the 28 of Nathan Hall, and able to get by Hall. And now we find Munsell try to get by Jacob Grant. Here comes Munsell on, really just following the 7, but should get the inside. And Grant just giving that position, understanding those are fresher tires compared to the ones that he's had all race long.
So move Munsell into the 10th spot. A great rebound after the pit road mishap. And now he might have an opportunity to still run down Tyler Riggs and possibly Shane Terrian to try and gain some more spots. Maybe not Bronson Stafford. It might be a little too late to try and get some more points, but I'm sure Justin will take what he can get as he hits the line. There'll be 2 laps now, or excuse me, we're on 3 laps to go in the stage.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Justin Munsell, his idea is get as many points as possible. He's running better than Tristan Maher, which Maher was needing a top 15 run and then also get some stage points. But it's Justin Munsell, who was 3 points behind the 17, trying to get himself into the points to move on to the next round next week. And right now, doing a great job. Going to go 2 for 1 possibly here. Tyler Riggs is going to have to back off, getting pinched on the outside, but here comes Munsell, who might want to force it 3 wide on the backstretch. I
don't want to get a little too crazy, though, as they head through 1 and 2. He'll pass the 26 of Riggs, then he'll run the 83 up the racetrack. 83 nearly got the wall and was way loose. Wow, what a save by the 83 of Terrian. That's going to allow Riggs to make a pass here, potentially, as we're on the white flag in the stage. 1 lap left to go. Tellier in control. Durand was slowly reeling him in, just didn't have enough time. Munsell going to likely get 3 stage points with getting 8th place here in the stage. A great rebound for that 98 machine.
And it's going to be Mike Tellier. Great strategy, staying out as long as he could, then switching it to 4 tires and getting the stage win for the 3 machine.
There he is, Mike Tellier. We'll talk to him in a moment in that very familiar white scheme here at Atlanta. Mike Tellier getting the stage win. David Durand gets 2nd. That's 9 cool stage points for the 24 of David Durand. And if he can get another run in stage 2 like that and Maher stays where he's at, Durand might be very, very close to the good if he can keep the car clean the rest of the way and get another good run in stage 2. Matt Dyer 3rd, Philip Scott 4th, Caleb Smith, a good run, non-playoff driver, up in 5th, Dylan Stipe 6th, Bronson Stafford 7th, Justin Munsell 8th, as you saw, Tyler Riggs 9th, and Shane Terrian, the winner last week in Kentucky, he will get the final stage point.
Ooh, what a stage that was. And how much this is shaking up the points for some of these drivers. Tristan Maher was inside of the top 8 coming into this race, not looking good for himself. Back in 17th place, 1 lap down. Nathan Hall, Robert Kenny, both those drivers were already outside of the top 8, needing good runs, and they're not getting them, with both Robert Kenny being 2 laps down, Hall being 1 lap down, and being back in 18th and 20th. In 19th and 18th position.
As Mike Tellier brings it into the pits here, we'll talk to him when he comes out of the pits here, so we'll allow him to get into his stall here to get service.
Oh, how nice of us this time.
Yeah, you don't want to mess up the drivers down in the pits, as he's looks like he's going to be going for a 4-tire stop here for the 3 of Tellier. That would be his 2nd set, so he'd have 3 left to work with, as it's going to be a little bit of a longer stay for him. It's not going to matter. He'll get out of the pits in no time. David Durand, and then the 2 of Dyer. I think Dyer may have beat the 24 off, but as the 3 works his way back on to the racetrack, let's chat with our Stage 1 winner, the number 3 of Mike Tellier. Hey Mike, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
I do got you guys. How goes it?
Yeah, it's going good. Pretty good for you, too. We wanted to wait till you got out of your pit stall, so we made sure that you were focused on getting back onto the racing surface. But what a run for you in Stage 1. Played the strategy card right. Durand was slowly catching up to you, but you had a good enough gap to hang on to it, and you picked up the Stage 1 win, man. And with that, if we're doing the math correctly, it should solidify you in to the second round of the playoffs. How you feeling?
Oh, that's wonderful news. I didn't know that. That's a big relief off my shoulders. Good to know.
Yeah, no, Mike. I mean, it's looking solid with the strategy you went with, going with the tires there during this stage one. Stage two, it's a little bit shorter. Are tires really something that you're worried about for the rest of this race?
Um, no, our team has a good strategy laid out. We know what we're doing. It'll be fun for you guys to watch, and hopefully the finish is decent.
Absolutely, Mike. Best of luck to you the rest of the way. If you take another W in stage two, we'll talk to you then, my friend.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
That was stage one winner Mike Tellier. Incredible run for him through that first stage. He's going to be leading here on this restart when we do get back to green. The race off the pit road win is this: Tellier and then Matt Dyer. David Durand ends up third. He'll ride behind the three here on this restart. Philip Scott fourth, Caleb Smith fifth. And then Bronson Stafford, Tyler Riggs, Brandon King, Justin Munsell, and then Jacob Grant. Your top 10 off of pit lane. Rest of the lead lap cars are the 83 in 11th of Shane Terrian, the 20 of Dylan Stipe, the 44 of Jesse Powers, and the 22 here. We'll get the lucky dog here, I believe. He'll be the last car on the lead lap. He'll start tail end of the longest line. And the pace car lights are out. Sam, we're going to go green this time by. They line up 2 by 2, getting set to get back to green flag racing. Stage 2 ends at lap 120, so it'll be a 55-lap run. So expect these guys to come down again near that lap 100 mark, the halfway portion of this race, for these guys to make another stop. Most of the guys, they're just used their first set of tires. A few of them have used their second set, so some have 3 remaining, some have 4 remaining. Gonna have to watch it as this race goes on.
Yeah, looking at the points right now, David Durand really setting himself greatly with that second place finish here in stage 1. Another great stage. Could be putting this 24 machine in a possible, pointing himself into the next round.
As Tellier is going to get on the gas here. Green flag back in the air. 135 laps left in the race. And 55 left in stage number 2. Tellier gets the good jump. And getting the good jump with him is that 24 of David Durand. He's going to try and bring the 8 of Philip Scott with him. Dyer going to try and get a good run off the corner. They're going to go 3 wide behind him almost. Riggs trying to make it move. Scott throws the big block on Stafford, but Stafford going to take it in the middle. 3 wide, bold move from the 61 of Bronson Stafford.
And we've seen Luminary be big blockers early that time. They're being the ones that are being blocked, but that might have hurt Philip Scott overall. It's the 8 machine just being pushed at this point by Tyler Riggs, and Riggs frustrated as he doesn't know where to go because he's boxed in at the moment.
Stafford, he's dealing with the 24 of David Durand as Tellier got loose off the corner. Big time trouble there. Durand, that would have been the moment he was waiting for, and it's going to end up costing him. It's going to hand Bronson Stafford the lead. It's a hornet's nest, though, further back. Philip Scott, he is all over the place. Tellier's still all over the place. Matt Dyer, he's in trouble as well, but it looks like they'll all settle it out. This is all happening inside the top 10.
Yeah, that was all because Mike Tellier got so loose. He lost all that momentum and dropped back to all the drivers that were side by side for so long. But up front, it's going to be Bronson Stafford trying to make the pass, and will do so as he finally clears. But Tyler Riggs, he's found some moment. This 26 machine, he's quick. He led most of the start of stage 1, and he's trying to get back up front.
Justin Munsell in that whole shuffle was able to work his way to 4th, and look who's in 5th, the 7 of Jacob Grant. He's shown he can have speed to keep up with the Luminary guys, so watch for him here to be competitive, as you can put a blanket all over the top 6 from Stafford, Durand, Riggs, Munsell, Grant, and Terrian. The battle continues for second between the 24 and the 26.
Yeah, David Durand right now, he's just trying to hold his position and stay up front, which is a great move, I think, on the 24 car's part. Just stay where you're at. Try to stay up front the best that you can, and right now, going to be in the sucker hole as he's going to be put 3 wide action. Grant to the inside and able to make the pass.
Grant makes the pass. Duran still trying to hang on the outside. I don't know if how long he's going to be able to keep it up there until he starts sliding back. Riggs going to try and choose a different line from the 61 of Brunson Stafford as lap 70 goes on the board. 130 laps to go this time by. Excuse me. Grant hanging in there in third. Terrian, winner last week, he's in fourth. Duran settles into fifth for the time being as Riggs is starting to catch the 61.
Yeah, and right now, Tyler Riggs within 2/10, trying to make that move, but it's still the action from third place on back. But we're still seeing the side-by-side action, and it just continues to look that way as Jacob Grant not able to make the pass right there on Terrian, but still looking quick. It was around when we were about 15 to 20 laps into a run when this 7 machine was running just as fast as Bronson Stafford was. So I'm expecting the longer the run goes on, the quicker this 7's going to get.
Matt Dyer, he's hanging up there as well. Caleb Smith, he's running fast still. Munsell lost a couple spots there in that shuffle, but he should be able to rebound. Tellier has settled in the 9th, and then Dylan Stipe is just watching all of this happen just ahead of him, sitting there in that 10th spot. Dyer trying to pick a line to go with. Caleb Smith looks like he's going to try and follow with him. So we're going to have to wait and see how the rest of this run, as it shapes out, where the speed's going to come from. We know, as Sam said, Jacob Grant's got good speed in the long run. So we'll wait and see in the next 10 laps whether the 7 will be able to rebound or not, as both the 2 and the 25 go by the 7. Whoa! Near contact with the 25 and the 2.
Yeah, a little bit of defensive move there by Dyer, trying to just make sure that even though Smith might have gotten loose, still using him as a pick to hold off the 7 machine, which Grant now going to be passed by Munsell and continuing to drop back. You just got to be patient at this moment and hope that the drivers in front of you don't lose out on our front 3. But I think that's exactly what we're about to see. Dyer and Smith, they're trying their best to duke out these teammates, not sure who they want to be leading and trying to pull this little train along to try to stay with their top 3.
On board with the 7 of Jacob Grant. He'll dive it here to the inside here. Driver out of CEM trying to now pass the 25 of Caleb Smith as these guys continue to duke it out for the position. That's teammates actually right there, the 25 and the 7.
I do want to give a clarification. I believe the 7 of Jacob Grant is actually a part of High Five Racing. And it's Caleb Smith and Dyer that are part of CEM Motorsports.
Alrighty then, thank you for the information on that. As Grant, he's now fighting Dyer for the 4th spot. So Grant, after losing those spots, quickly gains them right back from the 2 and the 25. The one car that has really struggled since the drop of the restart, it's been the 24 of David Duran. Started 3rd, got nearly to the lead, and then the thing that happened with Mike Tellier really hurt him as he is now in danger of falling outside the top 10.
Yeah, and you want to make sure you stay there. But the advantage that we saw, though, from both Durand and Scott is that they took tires when they all came into the pits. We'll see what everyone else and the way that their strategies change here for stage number 2, and who takes tires to try to get the better stage points, and who just decides, I'll stick with the old tires that I've got.
They continue to run here down into 1 and 2, the majority of the race cars. 13 cars on the lead lap. Gary Peck, who had the lucky dog, he's back in 18th. Now the last car 1 lap down, so continued trouble for one of the newcomers in the 22. As for playoff drivers that are still kind of struggling right now, it's Tristan Maher, who's back in 15th. You see him here on your screen dealing with David Duran. So Maher trying to pick his way through and get his lap back the old-fashioned way. Don't know if he'll be able to do it, but he's in 15th, a lap down. Second car 1 lap down. And then Robert Kenny, who's just ahead of him, 2 laps down in the 19th spot. Still some troubles for both of those guys if they want to get their way into the next round.
Yeah, this is just not looking good for Robert Kenny at all. I mean, he needed to be up in our top 15 with stage points if he wanted a chance to point his way into the next round. And going 2 laps down, having the issues that he did on our green flag pit stop for stage 1, it's just hurt this 34 machine way too much and really needing a miracle at this point. But I just don't see how it's possible. Even if we have a ton of cautions that pop up, he's going to be stuck back in the hornet's nest where that's most likely where the caution is going to happen. As another car going to be DNFing as Derek Schilling, who had a great qualifying run, not able to finish out the race.
He'll be out of the race in the 21st position. That's where he will call it a night. Back towards the front, watching up here with these guys. Bronson Stafford's opened up about a second lead over Tyler Riggs. Shane Terrian sitting in third. There's Jacob Grant right there in the fourth spot. It looks like that long run speed is kicked in for the 7 because he's going to be setting up that 83 for a pass here in the next 2 laps.
Yeah, and this is around that time that I was talking about where we were seeing Jacob Grant run very similar lap times of what our leader is. And Bronson Stafford and I think Jacob Grant both are looking like the heavy favorites. Shane Terrian, usually when we're at these tire-saving tracks, when it's extremely slick and hot, that 83 machine usually one of the favorites. And I'm wondering if he's going with the strategy of just completely start saving immediately and not really push this machine at all and showing any of his teeth that he's got. So I think Shane Terrian, 5-time winner this season, already locked into the next round after winning last week. I think he's always got to be a favorite of winning another race here, even at Atlanta, where it's been just hot, slick. And we talked about how hot it's been. It's cooled off a degree since we started stage number 2, but we started the race. 131 degrees was the track temp. It's up to 132. It might only be 1 degree, but that can make a massive difference for a lot of these drivers.
It's a very good point. One, just from a person standpoint, you think 1 degree, oh, that's not that big of a deal. In the world of NASCAR, it means a lot of things, with whether it be on the sim or out there on the actual racetrack. It means a lot because it's a matter of just those fine-tuning adjustments that these drivers have to make. So they have to consider that extra degree to a further degree, if you will. As Grant hangs on in that 4th spot, Tyler Riggs trying to run down that 61, not really working. Speaking of Hornets Nest, it's a mess back here around Caleb Smith, Dylan Stipe, the lap machine of Robert Kenny, Tristan Maher, as all these guys trying to fight for the same real estate.
Yeah, and that's being led right now by Mike Tellier, who even after trying to rebound from him getting loose at the start of stage number 2, it's just been a roller coaster for Mike Tellier all season long, and it looking like it's continuing on. Luckily, he won stage 1, but Mike, bad news, which has been going on for the last 5-6 races of the season. If you win a stage, usually bad luck looms over you, and it looks like it's already hit the 3 machine.
He's hanging on, though, in that 7th spot. It's the 34 and 17 still trying to pick their way through lead lap traffic, trying their best to try and put themselves in a position to get back onto the lead lap. It's a tall task to do, as 17 right now, he's racing the 54 of Tom Bourne. 34, Robert Kenny, not really having to race Justin Belmonte. Belmonte's just about a second behind that number 12, so the 12's got to be mindful of that, too, when it comes down to potential wave rounds and stuff like that. As Dylan Stipe, he's going to pass Mike Tellier, push the 3 to the high side. He'll move up to the 7th position. And, I wonder, Sam, what I told Mike in telling him that he was more than likely locked in with that stage win. I don't know, did I jinx him, or did something just click in his mind saying, like, oh, I don't need to race as hard? What happened?
No, I mean, this is exactly the way that Mike was kind of running before. Woo! Able to save that there is, I believe that is Tom Bourne. No, excuse me, I believe that's Robert Kenny. That is that driver 2 laps down in the middle of all these other machines. And I think the fact that Mike was in that strategy of pit, take tires, and part of that group, and that's why he won stage 1. And I think he might be thinking about the same strategy once again. Pit, take tires, and then try to win another stage just to make sure that those other drivers that are trying to find themselves point their way in, they don't have that bonus point to work out as Tellier gets extremely loose once again.
We were riding on board with him when he got loose, so that's going to cost him not a spot, but it may cost him a spot, as here comes Philip Scott trying to make the pass on the outside there in that number 8. Not the normal red number 8 we're used to, running a different scheme this week in that number 8, as the 8 is now in the 8th spot for the time being. If Tellier can try to hang on the inside, doesn't look like he will. He'll deal with the lap machine of Tristan Maher, so move Philip Scott up to the 8th spot. Caleb Smith back in a hornet's nest of his own back there in 10th. He's got Jesse Powers up there with him as well, one of the newcomers. Pass inside the top 5, Sam. Jacob Grant the 3rd.
Yeah, no, it has been a 3-man battle right now to see who's going to be in 2nd place. Shane Terrian, Jacob Grant, and Tyler Riggs, they have not been giving an inch. as Grant and Riggs were almost rubbing on one another, and now Grant trying to fight back and get by Shane Terrian and try to get up to second place and do his best to run down Bronson Stafford, who has a 2.8-second lead over second place.
When Stafford hits the line, lap 90 is going to go on the board, so they went back green at around lap 65, so that window's going to be opening up for those guys if they decide to do that little short pitting again within the next 3 laps, Sam.
Yeah, I think it's around 3 to possibly 5 laps. That's when we're going to be seeing a lot of these drivers coming in, splitting this in half for this segment and making sure that they're good to make it to the end of stage 2. And the question of who's going to take tires has to be looming over so many drivers' heads, because if you take tires here comes Shane. And he's good. He came in smoothly, did not get caught speeding. So 83 machine good to come in. Also, other drivers can follow in suit. Stipe and also Scott. We'll see who else follows. It's 17 of Maher as well.
89 of Brandon King joining a couple lead lap cars here in the pits as well. Looks like a smooth entry for everybody. And looks like fuel only again for the 83, tires for the 89, it looks like, for the 20 and the 8. So, and the strategy's calling again as Tyler Riggs pits out of the top 5, and he's now into the pits.
Tyler Riggs had issues just getting onto pit road, overshot the pit entry and kind of went into the grass for a little bit, got back onto the pit lane, but losing time by that little bit of an incident.
Watching the 26 here. He's going to go with tires here, but that, like you said, that time going to cost that number 26 just a little bit. So he is going to get all 4 tires serviced, and he'll get back out onto the racetrack. Tom Bourne was another one that joined him on that pit stop. Actually, that is the 54. That was with him in the pits. Another car in the pits too, Mike Tellier, and the 24 of David Durand.
Also looking, Tyler Riggs caught speeding for that 26 machine, looking for a win. And Tyler Riggs is not in battling for the playoffs and trying to win for a championship, but obviously wanting a better day for himself. Our leader, Bronson Stafford, into the pits.
Here comes the 61 G Fuel Energy machine working his way down the pit lane. He'll head to his stall looking for a flawless pit stop for that number 61 of Bronson Stafford as everyone gets away. And Stafford's going to go the tire route as well, as he's going to get all 4.
Driver that has pitted and led all the drivers that went for 4 tires. That's going to be Stipe right now in 8th place, trying to pass Shane Terrian, one of those first drivers to pit. Bronson Stafford went for all 4 tires. He's trying to go for a stage win.
Stafford back onto the racetrack. Let's see. The 83 just passed him there. Where is the Dylan Stipe machine? And he's still not in our picture yet. So Stafford may have pulled the strategy perfectly with choosing 4 tires. Looking on the grid right now, cars that are still yet to come down in pit are the 98 of Munsell, the 44 of Powers, and then the 25 of Caleb Smith. That's all who we're waiting on, as Dyer and Grant have completed their pits.
Dyer went with fuel only. Jacob Grant went with 4 tires. And right now, Jacob Grant going to be passed, I believe, by Bronson Stafford. Yes, he does. Bronson Stafford not wanting to give any possibility for any other drivers to win this stage, as he's going to be trying to pull away from the rest of the field. And also, looks like Tom Bourne might be trying to push himself and try to run down his teammate. We'll see if he can try to unlap himself the hard way, as the 54 machine has been down very harsh after some issues on pit lane and just issues overall for today.
There was the pass for the proverbial lead as the 61 blows right by the 83 of Shane Terrian, much like how we saw Mike Tellier go right by. And then now the 61 just put his teammate Robert Kenny back down a second lap once again. So the troubles are going to continue for that number 34. Needing really a Hail Mary.
Powers and also Maher contact as they're trying to get onto pit road.
And Powers is going to slide and knock the cone onto the racing surface. It won't bring out a caution, but oh boy, Powers sliding. into that corner, no pun intended, into the pits, as that's going to cost the 44 some time, and then the 25 had to slow down as well. Don't know if that's going to really penalize them or not.
I'm going to keep an eye out on the 44 of Powers to see if there is a speeding penalty, but right now, Justin Munsell about to be passed and unlapping himself is going to be Bronson Stafford. I think Munsell was kind of crossing his fingers and hoping for a caution to come out, which would have helped this 98 machine to possibly try to make a pit stop, have the freshest tires, and just help himself overall points-wise. But Bronson Stafford unlapping himself, I think that's a telling sign that he has to come in here probably in the next 2 to 3 laps.
Penalties for both the 44 and the 25 of Caleb Smith. Extended stays in the pits for both of them. That's going to cost them a lot of time, as you're watching the Munsell machine, as the 54 of Tom Bourne, he is starting to really reel in these guys. He's not that far back from Bronson Stafford, so maybe Bourne might be trying to put the afterburners on here in these final 20 laps to try and unlap himself the old-fashioned way.
Certainly he's going to try every motive to try to unlap himself and put him on the lead lap. But Tom Bourne was leading the drivers that were 2 laps down. That now is going to go to Robert Kenny as coming into the pits. He's going to be Justin Munsell. So a lot of drivers getting their lap back.
Munsell into the pits here. 9 cars on the lead lap for the moment as Munsell gets into his pit stall. This is going to hand the lead right over to the 61 of Bronson Stafford, as a couple other cars in the pits as well. Justin Belmonte, he is in as well. Munsell is out and away. Let's see where this is going to put him out at. He's down to 3rd, and he's going to probably lose a few more spots, but might be able to hang on to the top 10 for this second stage, if not be able to work his way back into the top 10 if everything works out. Stafford into the lead. We're going to wait for him to hit the line here to see where he'll come out. Jesse Powers is going to try and unlap himself and get himself back to 1 lap down, I believe. And indeed he will get around the 61 of Stafford, as we are halfway through this one, folks. If you're just joining us, got a great one going for you guys, as David Duran was off the racing surface on the back straightaway.
Yeah, got extremely loose at it too, and luckily saved that 24 machine before hitting the inside wall, but losing a lot of time. And this time had to swap the strategy. Instead of going for tires, had to go with fuel only for the 24 machine. So outside of the top 10, but might be able to get that position back just because Gary Peck, who's in 10th place at the moment, looking like has to come into the pits.
So Duran might still be able to secure some stage points. He's got to be mindful, though, if he wants to get back on the lead lap of that 54 of Tom Bourne. Tom Bourne still reeling in everybody, including the leader, Bronson Stafford. Both of them running semi-close lap times. Bourne's running 2 seconds quicker than Duran, but that was because of the mishap on the backstretch. Even then, he's still running a second quicker than David Duran, so expect Bourne to make up some spots here under this run to the end of the stage, as everything has cycled out. 9 cars will eventually end up on the lead lap. Stafford's the leader of them. Jacob Grant, he is 2nd. 3rd is Dylan Stipe. 4th, Brandon King. 5th, Philip Scott. 6th, Mike Tellier. 7th, Shane Terry. And Munsell cycled out in 8th. Matt Dyer is 9th for the moment, and then Gary Peck, he is in 10th, but the only car remaining to have come down and made a pit stop.
Yeah, these drivers all trying to make some big moves, certainly for themselves. And, you know, looking at some of the drivers that went for 4 tires and those that went for simply fuel only, Tom Bourne trying to make a charge to gain some positions, possibly get a bonus point here. But when he came into today's race with a 29-point lead over Justin Munsell, felt very confident coming into this race, just was looking for a top 15 finish, and it looked like possibly that Tom Bourne was going to be making himself in. But right now, battle for 7th place, Shane Terrian under heavy fire from lap cars, and then also Justin Munsell just behind the 83 machine.
26 here, one of the cars 1 lap down now, and with his pit road penalty, he will pass the 83. Here comes the 34 of Robert Kenny, who's back to 2 laps down on his 4 fresh tires. He'll start working his way past. Munsell going to hang with Tarian right there in that 7th and 8th spot, looking to try and just trade points. Munsell trying to gain as many points as he can. With 13 laps left in the stage, I'm watching Jacob Grant. He's running about a second and a tenth and a half quicker than Bronson Stafford each lap. It's going to be very close, and if Stafford runs into lap traffic trouble, might have a battle for the lead for the end of the stage.
Yeah, and I'm also looking to see where exactly, as Peck coming into the pits, going to be giving that 10th position to Tom Bourne. And Tom, right now, not really in any worry after getting past Durant a couple of laps ago, and with a 1.5-second lead over the 24 machine, feeling good with the fresher tires. Just, I'm trying to figure out where some of these drivers can possibly make some moves. I mean, really, it's that battle for 7th place where we're going to be seeing any type of shift in our top 10.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you say that. Grant's got the lead down to 2.5 seconds. It's gonna. I don't really think it was because Stafford was dealing with traffic. He's about to catch the 25 of Caleb Smith and then possibly the 44 of Jesse Powers. After that, he's got clean green racetrack, but Grant's still picking away at our race leader here as we close in on 10 laps left in the stage.
Yeah, and I think right now Bronson Stafford might be thinking save tires.
That
think
might
that
be it
might
too.
be just, I mean, he had such a lead over the rest of the field. He doesn't have to push it as hard as what we're seeing Grant do, which I think Grant right now is just seeing red and thinking, hey, I'm running him down. I could get there. While Bronson's thinking, hey, the track's still hot. It's still slick. Let's save my tires just in case the 7 machine catches me.
The times that time by, Grant was about a tenth and a half quicker again, so we'll see as this goes. We've seen it before out of these guys that are running in the lead at the end of the stage and have the second place car creeping up on them. But then the final 5 laps, they just kick the afterburners on and they go to take stage number 2. Looking in this, if Stafford wins this stage, that should be enough to solidify him into the second round. He entered today with 27 points over Munsell. A stage win would secure him into the second round.
Yeah, I mean, the first stage, Bronson got 4 points to add on to what he already had compared to the drivers behind him. So a very comfortable lead, feeling good. I think it was really, Brandon King, Stipe, Kenny, and Maher that were inside of the top 8 coming into this race that were really unsure if they were going to be able to make it out in the top 8. And it's not looking good for a lot of those drivers. I think Stipe and King most likely in the best positions. Of those drivers, it's Kenny and Maher. Both are struggling right now to get any type of stage points, while the drivers outside of our top 8, they've gotten quite a few and gotten a lot of Durant and also Philip Scott.
As we're about 7 laps left in the stage, and I think Stafford realizes Grant's coming, so he's kicked it up a little bit of a quicker lap that time by than Grant did. So Stafford looks like he's in a comfortable spot to take the stage. Grant second, Stipe third with his 4 fresh tires. Brandon King fourth, Philip Scott fifth, Mike Tellier sixth, Justin Munsell 7th, Shane Tarian 8th, Matt Dyer 9th. And then Tom Bourne, 1 lap down, likely going to hang on to that lucky dog spot. That'll give us 10 cars on the lead lap for the final 80 laps. And then looking through the rest of this group, a lot of playoff drivers a lap down. Tristan Maher, he's rebounded a little bit. He's in 12th right now, but would really need a stage point to help him out. David Durand, after his good run in the first stage, down to 13th, not even going to get a sniff at a stage point. And then continue to look through Robert Kenny, the struggles continue for him. And then Nathan Hall has had the troubles all day long as well.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of these drivers that you talked about that are 2 laps down, I mean, Kenny and Hall both were looking for good days and not able to get them. As we're coming to the end of stage 2, there's still a lot of racing to be seen, but we've only had our 1 caution, about to be 2, and both those cautions are going to be because of stage cautions, not because of a racing incident, even though we have seen plenty of cars getting wickedly sideways out of 2 and out of 4, but just not enough to bring out of the caution.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough as the 61 goes by the 2 of Matt Dyer. as Stafford just continuing to put it on. Grant's got the lead down within 2 seconds. He's feeling it, but I don't know. I think he's run out of time now. If he kept the same pace the last couple laps, he may have been able to run him down. But Stafford in control for the time being. Really not much we can talk about, Sam. Everyone's pretty spread out.
Yeah, I mean, the one talking point that I had was that battle for 7th place, but, once Munsell made the pass and started pulling away, that kind of went away from everything else. But, I mean, what we can talk about is the fact that who's inside of our top 10 right now. Philip Scott got great points and finished out in 3rd place for this stage. 4th place, excuse me, for stage 1. Now looking to finish in 5th place. Great points for that 8 machine that coming into this week was extremely far back, was multiple digits back.
3 laps to go now in this second stage of play from Atlanta here in the second race of the playoffs. Race number 17 on the season in the Clutch Drop Cup Series inaugural year. Bronson Stafford on pace right now to get a stage win for Luminary. A great run for him at that. If you look at the overall for Stafford, this will be his 3rd stage win, and it would be a big one to benefit him. Tellier, with his 3 wins early in the year, he only had 1 stage win out of all that. So that stage 1 he had was only his 2nd stage win of the season, as Stafford just needs to hit his marks here for this next lap and a half, and he will take the stage.
Yeah, feeling extremely good for himself. And looking at some of the rest of the field, I mean, there's got to be some semblance of excitement of the fact of, hey, this has been a very good race. I think we threw out before this race, we knew it was going to be extremely hot. And the possibility of multiple cautions being seen, and all these drivers, yes, it's been extremely loose, but great adjustments from all the drivers from our first lap to now, with the fact of them recognizing it's hot, it's slick, let's make sure our setups can hold on.
Yeah, I think that over-under of 7 cautions I put out there before the race was probably a little too much, if you will. So they're proving me wrong, and I'm glad they're doing it. Only 1 caution, and the second one will come out now, and it's because it's for the stage breaks, and it's going to go this time to Bronson Stafford. He takes stage number 2 with a resounding good strategy coming out of the pits. 4 tires, he played it right, holding off Jacob Grant, who finishes 2nd in this stage. For that stage win, Dylan Stipe 3rd, Brandon King 4th, Philip Scott 5th, Mike Tellier, he'll get 6th, Justin Munsell, much-needed stage points again, 7th, Shane Terrian 8th, Matt Dyer 9th, and then Tom Bourne, a lap down, gets 10th, but Matt Dyer's going to be the recipient of the lucky dog under this yellow.
Yeah, leaving us with a total of 9 drivers with that lucky dog position being on the lead lap, showing there's a lot of speed, and especially with our top 4 and where they were running, there is a lot of speed of those drivers, and it's going to be tough for anyone else to keep up with those drivers up front. But we haven't really been able to see what Shane Terrian's got or Justin Munsell. Both those drivers have gone with fuel-only stops, so they are trying to save their tires for the end of this race, just in case we start to see a lot of cautions popping up.
Stafford and company, they'll get set to bring it back down into the pits. When he leaves his pits, we will talk it over with him. I believe they're pitting this time by. Yes, they will. They're running the lower group, so they'll come down and pit. So when he leaves the pits, we'll talk with Bronson, our stage 2 winner. A nice, cool 10 points for him. And much like Mike Tellier was in that first stage, this second stage for Stafford, it should be more than enough to get him in to the next round. Had that advantage early on, and I don't think he's going to be the leader leaving the pits, Sam.
It's going to be interesting to see how these drivers go, but Stipe deciding to stay out, which is a really different call. But, I mean, it's not a complete terrible call just because of the way that the fuel and the tires are going to be looking like from here on out to the end.
It's gutsy, and out of the pits, Stafford had a race with Grant coming out of the pits. I don't know who got it. I think Stafford got it by just a little bit, and that's going to keep Grant in the 3rd spot. While we have the time, we'll bring in our Stage 2 winner, the 61 of Bronson Stafford, out of Luminary Racing. Hey, Bronson, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN broadcast booth. You got us?
Yep.
Great strategy call for you coming out of that round of green flag pit stops in that second stage, and it paid off for you. My one question is this: were you trying to save throughout that rest of that second stage? Because Grant was catching up to you, and we've seen tonight that Grant's got good speed. Were you trying to save, or was he just catching you?
No, we noticed at the end of stage one, Jacob's just got some good speed tonight. I'm not sure where it came from, but he's fast tonight, so we're definitely having it made out for us in the final stage.
Yeah, I mean, Stafford, this is kind of giving you a perspective. That first stage, you went with fuel only. This time you went with tires. How are you feeling overall? Just because it looks like it's going to be between yourself, Shane Terrian, Justin Munsell, if he's able to hold on with you guys, and Jacob Grant to battle out for this race if we stay green.
Yeah, Shane and I bit the bullet stage one and, saved a set of tires. And then Shane saved a set here through this one as well. So just in case of green-white checkered, he's just trying to pad another win. But yeah, we pretty much forced guys to either have to take no tires this stage or burn another set and then hope to make it this last one on one stop. So yeah, last stage will be interesting.
Now, one more question for you. This stage win should solidify you into the second round that we kick off next week at Talladega. What's the strategy here? Go for the win or try to help your teammate out in Justin Munsell?
Munsell needs points, but we're all just kind of running our own race. If there's a way to help him towards the end, I think we'll probably look at doing it, but he's been running good enough. I think he's just got to beat the 17, and he's been doing it all night. So right now, I think we're all looking good. Just need Kenny's on the back foot. He's got to get his laps back and try something out here, but there's not much we can do. He's 2 laps down, so there's not even much we can do to help him.
Alrighty, Bronson, best of luck to you in this final run to the finish. If you pop up in the top 3, we'll see you then. Have a good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks, Carlos.
Your stage 2 winner, Bronson Stafford. They've lined up double file, getting ready to go back green. 75 lap run to the finish here, Sam.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely intense for these drivers, and I think right now the thought of who can stretch it the furthest and make sure they've got the fuel to make it to the end, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. We've been seeing a lot of tire strategies being thrown out. But if we stay green like we've been seeing, this might turn into a fuel strategy race for a lot more than it is going to be about tires.
Bronson Stafford, Jacob Grant, Justin Munsell, Brandon King, Dylan Stipe. That's the top 5. Then Mike Tellier, Matt Dyer, Shane Terry, and Philip Scott. And then Tyler Riggs, who's worked his way back to the lead lap. And Jesse Powers, he's on the lead lap as well. 11 cars to figure out a winner here tonight in Atlanta. Who is going to take it? 75 laps, we'll find out. Green flag back in the air as Stafford gets away from Jacob Grant. Let's see how fast Grant's going to be through this early run.
They're going to be single file for the first 2, and now 3 positions, dropping all the way back to 5th place, where we're finding ourselves with the 2 and the 3, just side by side. Excuse me, that was for the battle for 5th place of Stipe and Tellier. But Carlos, the track temp, it's cooled off by 3 degrees. It's now 129 degrees, the coolest it's been, but still extremely slick for these drivers.
Oh, battle for the lead. Stafford nearly got up into Jacob Grant. He's going to get some help here from his teammate in the 98 of Justin Munsell. King's trying to get up there to help the 7. Near contact out of turn number 4. It'll turn into a battle for second as Stafford clears everyone, cut off the racetrack, trying to figure out who that is. That may have been the 20 of Stipe.
I think it might have been the 17 that got completely out of shape there. And
Correct.
it was the 25 that got it out of shape as well. As there's so much going on, I'm just losing really who to talk about. As Mike Tellier continues to drop back in the 3 machine, as now he's going to be trapped behind a lot of lap cars, and this is not the place you want to be for the 3 machine because he's just going to lose time as he's got more and more drivers passing him.
Battling continuing for the lead. Stafford and Grant loose off a 2. They're still battling as Munsell trying to pick who to go with here. He's going to go with his teammate continuing in that number 61 of Bronson Stafford. Grant trying to get that good run that you can get on the high side out of these corners. Drag race to the line. Stafford leads by a bumper as the battling continues. Man, I'm scared these guys are going to make contact, and they did.
Grant able to stay off the wall somehow in that 7 machine. I think that's probably the save of the day. We've seen a lot of saves so far, but Grant's got to be a little bit frustrated with that moment. But they've been rubbing off of one another for the last 3 laps. It was bound to happen.
Something had to give at some point, and it's going to cost the 4 of Jacob Grant, and he maintains his composure, though. Remember, he's a lot quicker in the long run. In the long scheme of things, he's a lot quicker. So watch for him to try and rebound here, as some lap cars are starting to peek up into the picture as well. Caleb Smith and Tom Bourne, the top 2 cars off the lead lap, trying to get their lap back the old-fashioned way.
Also, you're going to throw in the 17 of Tristan Maher that is following suit with the 25 of Caleb Smith as our front 2. Really, now it's our front 3 of Brandon King now joining into the fray as Tom Bourne trying to unlap himself the hard way. Right now in 12th place. Got that stage point from end of stage 1, but certainly was hoping for a better day. Speaking of better days, Evan Coleman was hoping for that as well, as the 51 machine joining the pile of machines DNFing from this race.
Out of the race in the 20th spot. That is where he is going to finish tonight. That's going to move Nathan Hall up another spot. He's the only car 2 laps down, so really he needed a lot more help for him to try and, stay in the picture for the playoffs. As here comes the 98 of Justin Munsell, looking to make a move here on his teammate Tom Bourne, the lap machine. Going to try and figure out which way to go with here, as Munsell still keeping it side by side down in the corner when they hit the line. 68 laps left.
Could it be a pattern that we're seeing during the playoffs? Race number 1, Shane Terrian. He did not load in for the grid, started 3 laps down and won at Kentucky. Justin Munsell, he missed his pit box on our first green flag pits box, and he now finds himself leading this race and now having the lap car of Tom Bourne pushing him along.
What a rebound for the 98 of Justin Munsell. He's in a position right now. If he wins, he's in, and it could potentially hurt someone that was on the outside, and it's going to be the 17 of Maher that hurts him. The last thing that Munsell wants to see is Maher get back on the lead lap, and he's not far away from doing so because he's just behind the 25 of Caleb Smith.
Honestly, I'm trying to do the math really quickly right now, and where Tristan Maher is compared to where Munsell's running and compared to what Philip Scott has done, and also what David Duran has put himself in the situations that they're in, all 3 of those machines would be pushing the 17 out of the playoffs, moving into the next round of the best of 8. Also, Robert Kenny might be in the same situation of being pushed out. Stipe, with him getting 13 bonus points from stage 1 and 2 combined, it is a great day for that 20 machine who just needs to continue running in the top 10.
Robert Kenny, just mentioned him. He made a pit stop just now. That's going to put him back down 2 laps, and just a bad day continuing to go bad for that number 34.
Yeah, I really do think with the fact that Tristan Maher's been having a bad day, finding himself 1 lap down, as well as Robert Kenny, who's multiple laps down, who's just gotten his service done. With both those drivers having the major issues that they are, that is now giving 2 spots practically open to try to put themselves into the final 8 and trying to battle out for a championship here. And it's really looking like it's going to be between Justin Munsell, David Duran, and Philip Scott for those 3 drivers that were outside looking in. They all 3 have 2 spots. One of them will not be making it to the next round.
Mike Tellier and Jesse Powers have made it into the pits here. I believe these are scheduled stops for these guys with how the strategy played out for them throughout that second stage. As they're going to be in the pits, they're going to go down 1 lap, but they could get it back in whenever these leaders decide to come in pits. So that leaves us with 8 cars on the lead lap here on lap 130. Lap 137.
Yeah, I think looking at where the drivers are at, how many laps they can keep on going, I mean, they're going to have to try to figure out how to split this thing in half, go 35-35 if they want to make it to the end. So that's going to put them around lap 165 is the window that they want to get to. And they could be possibly a lap or 2 short if they have not started to save immediately when this run started.
To wait and see what happens. Belmonte has made a pit stop. Mike Tellier extended stay for the 3. So I think that's going to spell the end of the day for Mike Tellier. And that really means that stage 1 victory, it really pays big dividends with where he may end up at the end of the night.
Yeah, I mean, he came into today with I think it was a 33-point lead over Justin Munsell. So it was a very big lead that he had. And even with some of these drivers and the big points day of stage points, doesn't look like it's going to be, hurting Mike Tellier by sitting out the rest of this race.
As everyone is back on to the racetrack, looking at the pit cycling, Shane Terrian and Philip Scott are the only two that have made 5 stops. Everyone else has made 4, with the exception of Gary Peck, who's made 3 stops in this race. Interesting how Gary Peck has been able to make it 3 stops on lap 140, so typical to him, I guess, for trying to stretch the strategy out the way he can. He's running in 13th, 1 lap down. Looking through the field right now, Stafford still running here in the 2nd place. Munsell hanging in there in 1st. There's Jacob Grant right there in the 3rd spot. Grant, this is about the point where we would normally see Grant kick it up here, but haven't seen it happen just yet for that 7.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is the fact that he got pushed up and lost over a 1.5 seconds, which, yeah, as you can see, that's the difference right now between Bronson Stafford and Grant. And it's just, Grant's kind of been having to stay and stall out, which is going to just hurt the 7 overall. But the later the run goes on, like we've stated, that's when we start to see the 7 really kick it into gear. But how much did that left side damage on the front end hurt this 7 car overall? Because still running a little bit slower. Actually, that time by, a little bit slower than our front 2. And this is around the time that we were seeing Grant start to close in on those luminary drivers. So there's some concern with that front left damage.
You see Tom Bourne just ahead of them. It's technically Luminary 1, 2, 3 in line. Bourne is trying to get his lap back, but it looks like the timing has just fizzled out for that number 54, as he's going to try and just ride around where he's at and get a top 10 that way. Tristan Maher has worked his way up to the 10th spot on the racetrack with where he's running. Right now, even though it'd be a great day for him, it may not be enough for him to get into the playoffs. David Duran's running in 12th, about a second or 2 seconds behind him, so you got to think he's going to be trying to chomp at the bit to try and get his way in, but it's just a matter of how the cookie's going to crumble in these final 58 laps for all of these drivers. As another car into the pits, it's the 22 of Gary Peck.
Yeah, I mean, Peck was already a lap down. Now going to be put 2 laps down, possibly 3 with coming into the pits, and going to be taking all 4 tires for the 22 machine. And just looking overall, all these drivers getting pretty spread out, and I think looking like this is the way it's going to be until we start seeing pit road get extremely busy here in the next 10 to 15 laps.
So we're going to keep on watching, waiting to see how the times fall. This time by Munsell running a 31.69, Stafford a 31.75, and Grant a 31.83 for your top group. Brandon King ran a little bit of a quicker lap that time than both Stafford and Grant, so they'll be able to pick up some time on those guys in that orange number 89 machine.
Battle that's about to heat up. That's going to be back in 6th place. Shane Terrian, our 5-time winner this season, he is now being hunted down by the 20 of Stipe. So, a little bit different to see both these drivers battling back and forth. Stipe just been Mr. Consistent, hasn't really been a driver that we really throw in the possibly could get a win category, but certainly a driver that is looking for top 5s after top 5s every single week.
As Stipe clears the 83 machine, so moves Stipe up to the 6th spot. He's about 2.4 seconds back behind Matt Dyer, who's had a good rebound day, was having some trouble early on, and he's got himself up into that spot. I believe we've had another DNF, and it's going to be the 25 of Caleb Smith, who's going to go to the pits. And speaking of pits, here comes the 61 of Stafford.
Yeah, Bronson Stafford going to be pitting a little bit earlier than I thought he was going to, so expecting tires for the 61 machine here, and just doing some quick math, I think that he's going to be about 20 laps short, so another pit stop going to be necessary for the 61 machine, but hoping that with the fresher tires with both of these stops, it's going to be enough for the 61 to make it to the end.
With Munsell getting into the pits, that's going to hand the lead over to Jacob Grant. With Munsell in, let's look and see what his strategy is going to be as we're nearing 50 laps to go. Munsell definitely going to go with tires here, and they have a set in their back pocket as well, so don't worry about that for them. As I'm still trying to look through here, anybody else still making a move to the pits? Not quite yet. Munsell is out and away from his stall.
Yeah, and continuing to just watch. Munsell gonna just hold on tight, hope for the best here. 4 tires, 98 machine is gone. Trying to hope that he can be in front of Bronson Stafford, but Stafford most likely gonna be passing the 98 machine here on the back stretch. But Bronson, he's been ahead. He's in a hornet's nest himself with Duran, his teammate of Shane Terrian behind him. I mean, that is a scary place to be around.
Munsell hangs on to it for the moment. Stafford, he's going to come get with a full head of steam here, and he's going to catch the 98 here, but the 98's back to full speed and full strength, so the 98 may have lucked out. I don't know. Here comes Stafford trying to make a pass. Dylan Stipe just ahead of these guys. Got to be careful. 98's going to use the 20 as a pick.
Able to get by, but man, that's close race, and you got to be careful when you're that close to one another, but able to hold on as those drivers. I mean, this is certainly a lot of 3-wide action we've been seeing throughout the night, and I'm not even surprised that we're still continuing to see it.
So really, you're watching the battle for the lead as they're going to run up on some more lap traffic. They're going to pass both the 17 and the 2 of Matt Dyer. Matt Dyer currently on the lead lap in 3rd, the 17 off the lead lap. So that's a pass for Munsell, and that's a pass he loves to see there, passing that number 17 of Maher, and now putting Stafford ahead of Maher too. That's a bit more of a gap between the two. Munsell into the 8th spot. We're still waiting on 7 cars to come down and make a stop. That being Jacob Grant, Brandon King, Matt Dyer, Dylan Stipe, Shane Terrian, Philip Scott, and the still hanging on to the lead lap 54 of Tom Bourne.
Yeah, you know, usually we give ourselves a little bit more love to the newcomers, and right now Jesse Powers and Tyler Riggs, they might be a lap down, but battling extremely strong for 12th place. It's 44 machine trying to get by Tyler Riggs, and Riggs, during stage number 1 and a little bit of stage number 2, looked like one of our favorites to possibly battle for a win. It just has not gone so well for this team.
But regardless, he's going to fight to the end, knowing from just my time of watching Tyler Riggs, a colleague here at FRN, watching him in multiple leagues, he doesn't back down without a fight until that car comes to a stop. So he's going to keep fighting to try and potentially work his way back into the top 10. He's still dealing, though, with this pesky 44 of Jesse Powers.
And as we were watching that battle, it is closing in. Not as close as that battle for 12th place, but Brandon King is slowly catching on to the 7 of Jacob Grant.
Gap between them now inside 4 tenths, now to 3.5 tenths now for the 89 of Brandon King. A winner earlier this year back at, I believe it was Kansas, if I am not mistaken. Actually, no, that was Tellier that won at Kansas, but King, he's had speed before. So it's continued to be interesting how he's going to be able to try and keep up here with these leaders here. As I'm trying to find where he picked up the win.
I believe it might have been at Auto Club when we saw this 98 machine pick up that win. So, I mean, Brandon King obviously wanting to get back into the winner's circle in victory lane, and Brandon King has shown pace at almost every track we've been to. It's more of that consistency of having a setup that can last for these longer runs, and you're seeing it now contending with Jacob Grant, who we've been marking as one of the fastest cars on the longer run, and now making the pass for the lead is Brandon King in the 89 machine.
There goes Brandon King, still fighting, though, is Jacob Grant on that outside line. We've seen the outside line have some speed, and with that, that's going to allow Grant to take the spot right back. But don't look now. Here comes King trying to make the pass again through 3 and 4.
Yeah, King's going to have to drift up just a little bit more and try to get a better exit out. And that's what the high side always is going to have over the inside, is the momentum being carried along on the front and the back stretch. But for the cornering, the inside lane is just so strong. You're hoping you can get far enough ahead like this and slide up in front of the driver, but just not far enough is King, who has to just wait side by side again for another lap.
Now, I want to know, how long did it take for the 98 and the 61 to pass both the 89 and the 7 to get back on the lead lap? Because if the cycle stays the same and we go clean and green to the end of this thing, how long are the 7 and the 89 going to outlast those guys when it comes down to the end of this thing?
I mean, it didn't take very long. I mean, both those drivers have been just on cruise control, really, the last couple of laps. And honestly, setting themselves up for victory is going to be Justin Munsell. I mean, Bronson Stafford was right on the tailpipes, but was not able to hold on with Justin Munsell, as Munsell is just continuing to cruise. And the good thing for this 98 machine is the fact that he does have that one lap advantage that is so massive here at Atlanta, that is all about wear and tear.
And so really what it's going to come down to, the saving grace that it's going to be for these guys that have not pit yet, they're going to need to see a caution in the next 5 laps or so to make sure that everybody comes back down, because around 35 laps to go, that's basically the benchmark for when everyone should be good to go to the end of this race on both fuel and tires. So that's when they're going to have to see it. If not, it's really going to spell the end of their chances of getting a win here today.
David Durand, I'm looking at this 24 machine, and that whole entire right side is not looking good. That 24 car has clobbered the wall a little bit too many times after a great stage 1 and not able to get that many points in stage 2. David Durand, I mean, it was a great effort to try to get the stage points and positioning wise to get a good run for pointing his way into the next round of these playoffs. I don't think it's possible with the way that we're seeing this 24 car run now.
Going to get passed here by the 61 of Bronson Stafford. It's going to likely put him 2 laps down in the grand scheme of things, because as we said, Munsell and Stafford, both guys are really the ones on track right now to try and battle for the win here this afternoon. As we're at 40 laps to go now, and Jacob Grant and Brandon King, I think they're battling again.
No, it's going to be Brandon King into the pits.
That's
Grant
it.
stays out. And Grant's been out there for 40 laps compared to the rest of the field that's been out there for 38 laps. And King was on the same strategy of Grant and deciding, hey, I've got to pull it in and come into the pits. And now we wait and linger for those front 5 drivers. When will they come into the pits? As Munsell in 6th place, doing a great job, only about 16.6 seconds back from our leader and continuing to gain on our leader.
Grant into the pits now. We'll see if Matt Dyer follows him in. Indeed, he will. Dylan Stipe is going to keep it out there, however, as Grant is going to pull into his stall here, looking to have a clean stop here to try and set up for a good finish this afternoon. Matt Dyer going to pull in just ahead of him. As Terrian, I believe we're just waiting on the 20 and the 83. Oh, and the 8 of Philip Scott.
Yeah, and looks like Stipe will be coming in this time by. I do have looked at Stipe. Stipe has brushed the wall here this race, and damage looks like it's going to be hurting him. And as well as the 83 of Shane Terrian, he's got a lot of front left damage, that looks like it is hindering this 83 machine. Luckily won at Kentucky and had such a points lead. Really didn't have to worry about today at all. But Justin Munsell, back to the point, back up front, and Bronson Stafford 2.2 seconds back, as the drivers most likely are going to have to set up for another pit box, while the rest of the drivers that just pitted, they should be good to make it to the end if they've saved enough fuel.
And, it's Atlanta has always had a thrill for the dramatic. We've seen close finishes at all 3 levels of the NASCAR circuit, Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks, and then dating back to years ago on the old configuration of how Atlanta used to look. So we could be looking at another one here today. And, that's what I was wondering. Jacob Grant, if he saved enough fuel, and he keeps himself on the lead lap ahead of Munsell and Stafford, and he should now, given he has 4 fresh tires, he might be setting himself up decently, because they were hanging on to that for 10 seconds before coming into the pits over Munsell and Stafford.
Well, Munsell and Stafford were able to just close it. They were able to unlap themselves and then be almost a half a lap behind where Brandon King was. At the moment, between our front two, the difference is 19.9 seconds, which is going to drift and dwindle away just because of the fresh tires over the newer tires. But I mean, even with Justin Munsell and Bronson Stafford pitting again, the pace that they were putting down, they could easily try to catch up to our leaders again. And this is going to be a wild finish of who can run down our front drivers of Brandon King or Jacob Grant once we see Justin Munsell and Bronson Stafford pit again.
And that'll be within the next 10 to 15 laps when we see them come down again, if I've done the math correctly, with how they're at right now. Looking at their stints right now, they're on about lap 20 of their stint, as we're still waiting on Tyler Riggs and Jesse Powers to make another pit stop. Same for Robert Kenny and Justin Belmonte. So roughly within the next 10, 15 laps is when we're going to see them come down and pit again, and that is going to set up for the final 20 laps to see who lasts out there, who's going to hang on and try to pick up a win here today and get themselves into the next round. Of course, Jacob Grant, he'd be playing spoiler to just about everybody up here. He is not in the playoffs, but having such a great run today, he's in a good spot. Brandon King, he's owning a 4.1 second lead over him right now. So King might be in a good spot to also try and run for his second win of the year.
Tons of racing action to be seen for our front two. Probably another pit stop and their final pit stop. The rest of the field, they kind of have to go into really fuel-saving mode, but still a lot of racing action to be seen as we'll take a quick race break. We'll be right back to all the racing action here at Atlanta as we take a quick side-by-side race break, and we'll be back here in the next couple of laps.
Our two leaders have made them way into the pits here. Justin Munsell pitting out of the lead. Stafford pitting out of second. Stafford still sitting in the pits, and now he'll pull away and get back onto the racetrack. Let's see how big of a gap Brandon King and Jacob Grant are going to be able to put here on both the 98 and the 61, and that's really going to be the difference here. We talked during the break, King might be in a really good spot. How much did both the 89 and the 7 save under this green flag run? As Munsell, he is out and away. Fuel only?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue for Munsell right now could be tires, trying to save a set just in case a late yellow comes out that he's got a set to work with compared to the rest of the field that could be running low on tires. Bronson Stafford, though, went with tires and now is the lone driver with the freshest of all the tires out here, but it is going to be a tall order for this 61 machine to try to run down our leader. The gap right now, 27.3 seconds. And I don't think it's possible. I think it's really going to be between our front two, Brandon King, Jacob Grant, who can make the best moves. Jacob Grant, with that front end damage that he ensued early in stage 3, it has hurt the 7 a lot, and it's looking like it is hurting him even more here as he's not able to run just as fast as Jacob Grant. I mean, as fast as Brandon King was, is Jacob Grant.
The thing for Stafford is we got 26 laps to go. He's at 26 seconds now. He needs to log a second a lap every single lap going forward. If he cannot meet that little window, it's not going to work out for him. He's got, and I think it is working out for him though. He's in now at 24 seconds. But you got to think of this too. As the laps log away, those tires are going to fall away from the 61 as well. It doesn't matter if he pitted with those and still had those fresh tires. Sure, he's running a second and 4/10 quicker right now than Brandon King.
Fastest lap down, the fastest lap of the race, a 29.941 by Bronson Stafford, and it is now less than 24 seconds. He's in 7th place, and he's going to try to be spoiler here for Brandon King. Both those drivers looking good and comfortable, but I'm also looking at the time. Jacob Grant was running down Brandon King, but lap traffic costing Grant from trying to run down the 89 machine.
That's the other thing for Stafford, too. He's got to negotiate the traffic as well. He has to think about that as he works his way through. Those lap traffic, it can slow him down, and it's going to cost him time at the same time. So that time by King ran a little, not quicker than Stafford, obviously. Stafford running still a second and 2/10 quicker, but Stafford at one point was running a second and a half quicker, so that time fell off just a little bit. We're going to have to wait and see where King comes out this time by. Stafford ran a 30.32. King this time by ran a 31.94. Much quicker lap for Stafford.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, Munsell, he's got to be thinking long-term, hey, I got to just go with fuel, and I think that's why he wanted to save a set of tires just in case, and he had that security blanket to make sure he can gain and keep the positions that he has. Munsell looking good to be pointing his way into our final 8. The other driver that is going to be pushing out Robert Kenny and Tristan Maher looks like that could be Philip Scott with the great finishes he's had here during the stages that have set this 8 machine up to move on to the next round.
Don't look now. Jacob Grant running a little quick. He ran about a 10th quicker than King that time. By that time, King was able to cut that down a little bit. Only really a 10th between them. Grant's still running quicker. I guess I don't know what happened there. Is King about to get passed here by the lap machine of Jesse Powers. Powers going to unlap one of his 2 laps on the number 89. Stafford at 18 seconds. It'll be 21 laps to go. He's ahead of the pace that I set for him. It's a matter of how long can he keep that pace.
Carlos, I want to throw our eyes back to the 2 machine of Matt Dyer. He pitted a lap later than our front 2, so he had a little bit more fuel to not have to try to save. And now I'm seeing him, the laps he's putting down, he was 8 seconds back. He's now 6.4 seconds back and gaining on our front 2.
He is coming in a hurry. Watch this top 3 here and eventually be top 4 once Stafford gets by Dylan Stipe. Further along in this race, Robert Kenny going to go around Dyer here, around the outside. Robert Kenny, 13th place right now, 2 laps down, might be out of the picture now. But ahead of Tristan Maher, so I don't know. We'll have to check some things on that. But again, Dyer running 2/10 quicker than Brandon King right now, and running about a second and 7/10 slower than Stafford. So just going to have to keep on watching here. Don't look. Also, Dylan Stipe, he's coming too.
Yeah, Stipe pitted also a lap earlier than Dyer, which was 2 laps earlier than our later than our front 2, and he's now less than a second on Dyer's bumper. But both those drivers have almost each lap ran almost, it felt like a second faster, but it's only been a couple of tenths faster. They've now Dyer's almost cut it less than 5 seconds. The issue is running out of time. He's been able to cut time down quickly. But how much has our front 2 just been saving on fuel and on tires?
That's what I was about to say. I really think King still has a lot of speed in this car. I think he's just saving right now for these.
They were
these
right on the
laps.
edge. When they pitted, they were about a half a lap short, so they had to save at some point and continue to save all the way through this whole entire stint. So it is a rough stint. They hope that they had a big enough gap on one another, but it is going to be an issue. Shane Terrian now coming into the pits. He was 6th place and not feeling like he can make it to the end.
So he'll come in. He'll likely fall a lap down. We'll see. Like we said, he has that safety blanket of winning at Kentucky that got himself in to the next round. Jacob Grant's got the lead down to about a second now. I still really think King is trying to save all that he can before he has to turn and hit the gas pedal again. So, and I think it's he better hit it now, because if Grant gets by him, I don't know if King can get back around him.
I mean, Grant right now less than a second, but the biggest number that's coming is Bronson Stafford. He's less than 10 seconds away and still running about a second faster.
So you look at the stints here between the top 4 and Stafford. It's about an 8-lap difference. So Stafford needs to catch the leader within the next 8 laps if he wants a sniff to win tonight, as Jacob Grant is going to be slowly reeling in the 89 here. Robert Kenny's going to put himself back 1 lap down, and he'll try to run down a couple other cars at the late end of this one before the end of this one. As here comes Jacob Grant. Brandon King not going to put up a contest. He's going to let the 7 go by and move Jacob Grant to the point. 15 laps remaining.
Will it be Dyer or will it be Stipe? They're both within 2 seconds of our front 2, and Stipe's now less than a half a second of Dyer. This 20 machine, he hasn't won all season long, and now could possibly be winning himself and locking himself into the next round.
Stafford that time by he ran a little slower, only 4/10 quicker than Stipe, Dyer, and Grant. So I don't know if it's starting to fall off for the 61. He's still gaining, but Jacob Grant, he's going to try and put a big enough of a gap as he can over everyone else. 14 laps to go. Can Grant play spoiler here today for everyone that's running in a playoff spot right now?
Dyer's now less than 3/10 off of Brandon King, and King is now in ultra save mode. He has backed it down. He has got completely just given up on the thought of winning this race, but is now just thinking finish and don't have to come into the pits. Dyer gets past King. Here comes Stipe to get past King. And now Jacob Grant, with 1.4 seconds ahead of Dyer, has to worry about this 2 machine and the 20 coming. And also, knock, into the top 5. Bronson Stafford, he is 5.8 seconds back and climbing within almost less than a second each lap.
He's still on that pace right now. He needs to, like I said, he needs to have passed Jacob Grant with 8 laps to go if he wants to win this race. And this time by, it's 12 laps to go. It's still doable. He's still on that pace. Going to have to wait and see, as Grant is going to have to negotiate some lap traffic here. Another thing I want to point out, too, Sam, we got 6 minutes left in this session.
No, that's just what's coming up on ATVO. We've still got a good hour in the session left here. We're good to go on time. But what I'm looking at is Jacob Grant did the opposite of what Brandon King did. Grant said, I'm going for the lead, and I'm going to hold on as strong as I can. If I run out, I run out. Dyer now in a chase mode, trying to chase down the 7 machine that has just said it's time to go. Bronson Stafford, he's now cutting it close, and he is now within a second of Brandon King.
He's now with, like you said, within a second now. That time by Jacob Grant, 32.00. Dyer and Stipe, 31.92, 31.93. Stafford, a 31.59. Still running quicker than those guys, but not as fast as he was earlier on in this run. Jacob Grant still owning a 1.5-second lead over Dyer. Does he have enough fuel to bring it to victory lane?
If it's a half a second that Bronson Stafford is doing, it's going to be enough time. He's going to be just getting there. But the issue is, it's not going to be a half a second every lap. He's got to find himself past lap cars or even lap traffic that's in front of him. Jacob Grant, if he's going to win this race, it's got to be hoping that he's got enough fuel, because at this point, it's running until it goes dry. Dyer hoping to see the 7 run out of fuel, and a Stipe hoping to see the 2 and the 7 run out.
It's really come down to this, as we are in 10 laps to go. Stafford has got it down to 4.8 seconds between himself and Jacob Grant. I think Stafford had to negotiate some lap traffic, so that's why he didn't run as quick lap times that time by. This time by, 31.6, 4/10 quicker than Grant, 6/10 quicker than Stipe.
Dyer was faster by a 1/10. He's trying to run down Jacob Grant. Grant, who has been one of the fastest drivers on the longer run. He's trying his best to hold off, but the issue is he's got that front left damage that he ensued from hitting Bronson Stafford earlier in stage 3. It is now hindering this driver from putting down the fastest laps that he could, but certainly putting in his best effort right now. 1.4 seconds and really just staying put, not allowing Dyer to gain anything that last time by.
Dyer about 0.5 quicker than Grant. 8 laps to go. Stafford got the gap down to 4.3. Remember, he still has to negotiate the lap traffic that's sitting behind Grant and Dyer right now, and then he has to get by Stipe as well. So Jacob Grant is sitting in the catbird seat right now, but could potentially be a sitting duck if he runs out of gas. When he hits the line, number 7 makes it 7 laps to go here in Atlanta this afternoon. Matt Dyer, now clear of the lap traffic, is clean green racetrack for him. Not so much for Jacob Grant, because Grant has to deal with the 8, the 34, and the 54 here before all things are said and done.
Yeah, Grant's got to figure out how to get by these cars that are just trying to fight to stay on the lead lap just in case a late caution comes out. Dyer, that last time by, was looking quick that he was about to run time, but he might have gotten loose. Also being ran down by Justin Belmonte, and Belmonte is on those fresher tires, and now it's forcing Dyer to lose time on Jacob Grant. This is hurting him because now Stipe's catching up, and Stafford.
Stafford 4.3 seconds back now. Dylan Stipe 3.1 behind Jacob Grant. Grant sitting in a good spot right now. That time by ran much quicker laps than Dyer and Stipe. Stafford 4.2 seconds back. I don't know. I think he may be out of time and he may have used his stuff.
I mean, it was such a tall order. He had to run down 26 seconds was what Bronson Stafford had to do. He's knocked it down by 22 seconds after pitting, going for tires. It's a lot of hard work. But right now, trying to make the pass for third place, Belmonte has gotten by Dyer, and I think Dyer just needs to use this 12 machine kind of as a tow to pull him along. And again, it's based on fuel. Jacob Grant looked like he was about a lap to a lap and a half off of making it to the end. Did he save enough fuel? That is the question that's over everyone's head. Did the 7 save enough? Because we know Dyer should be good. Stipe's good. Bronson Stafford for sure good. Side-by-side action for third place with a lap car of the 26 spot in front of him.
61 gets around Dylan Stipe, makes that pass with 4 laps to go. 3.8 seconds back to the race leader, Jacob Grant. 2.5 seconds back to second place, Matt Dyer. Bronson Stafford trying to work his way through, definitely solidified into the next round. Matt Dyer and Jacob Grant, 2 guys not even in the playoffs this season in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. So they're both looking to play spoiler to Bronson Stafford to take a win away from him. 3 laps to go. Jacob Grant, 1.2 second lead over Matt Dyer. Matt Dyer has lost that tow ability from Justin Belmonte because Belmonte is starting to run down the 7.
Also want to give an update on what the points are looking like. Robert Kenny looked like he was a fish out of water. Didn't have a chance to point his way into the playoffs, into the next round. It looks like after seeing the issues that David Duran had, even with the great stage points that he had gotten in stage 1, Robert Kenny, where he is running, he should be able to point his way into the next round.
2 laps to settle it. Good news for Robert Kenny. Jacob Grant, he right now just needs about 3 gallons of gas, and it'll get him to the finish of this one with 2 laps remaining. Now a lap and a half. Dyer back about a second and 3/10. Stafford 3.9 tenths. Through 3 and 4, negotiating lap traffic ahead in Philip Scott. Scott, a great day for him. He's going to get into the next round with his performance. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go for the 7 of Jacob Grant.
Did he save enough fuel? 1 lap to go for Jacob Grant. He's trying to get his first win here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. This 7 machine, he's been looking quick the last couple of weeks. Can he make it down the backstretch? He's got Justin Belmonte on his back bumper. Could the 12 have to push the 7 to a win?
As Jacob Grant works his way through 3 and 4, thought he was trying to fishtail it there, but he can coast from here. Jacob Grant, for the first time this year, is going to go to victory lane. He wins here tonight in Atlanta.
Matt Dyer able to save enough fuel, and Bronson Stafford able to cut down by 22 seconds, but comes up 3.9 seconds short from trying to get a win here at Atlanta.
And it boiled down to pit strategy, and Jacob Grant played it right. Did just enough. Saved just enough to get the victory here tonight. Of course, not in the playoffs, but man, it has to feel good to get a win and take it away from a playoff driver. You got to feel for the playoff drivers in this case. In this case, it's Bronson Stafford, who really was one of the favorites tonight. But give a call to that 7 of Jacob Grant, a single car operation, if I'm not mistaken, and what a win to do it with him. He'll have Matt Dyer here to celebrate with him. Dyer's going to burn it down with him here at the start-finish line for the no fans in attendance. Dyer gets second in that number 2. Bronson Stafford third. Dylan Stipe fourth. Brandon King went into ultra save mode. Was that 40 seconds that last lap? I think it's because he left the racetrack, but he gets fifth. So good points day for him. Justin Munsell sixth, seventh for Philip Scott, 8th for Shane Terry, and 9th for Tyler Riggs, and then rounding out the top 10. A lap down is Tom Bourne, as there is your finishing results. And we'll toggle through here the rest of the finishing order. Good run for Jesse Powers in 11th place, one of the newcomers, 1 lap down, but hung throughout the entire race, so he'll get 11th. Robert Kenny, you mentioned him, Sam, 12th place, and with where Maher and Durand finished,
It's going to be hard. I'm trying to do the math really quick. The issue is trying to see where Philip Scott landed, and Philip Scott, due to finishing 7th, better than Robert Kenny, I believe that is going to be putting the 8, pushing the 34 machine out of the playoffs. Also, Tristan Maher being pushed out of the playoffs because Justin Munsell finishing in 6th place and having some great runs in the stages. And it came down to Philip Scott getting those great stage finishes in stage 1 and 2 with 13 bonus points. It allowed this 8 machine to just try to run in the top 10, beating out the 17 and the 34, pointing his way into the playoffs.
So unofficially, the cars that will be out of the playoffs would be Robert Kenny, Tristan Maher, David Durand, and Nathan Hall unofficially for the time being, as we'll try to get all of that figured out. We welcome you to the FRN post-race wind down. Get set for some interviews here and try to get some late race breaking action regarding the points. But let's go ahead and bring in our 3rd place finisher, Bronson Stafford. Howdy, Bronson. This is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep.
Oh, you gave it your best shot. Sam mentioned it. At the peak of where you came back out on the racetrack and were running at full speed and comparing to everyone else, you were 27 seconds back. You got it down to 3.95, just 4 seconds short of trying to go for the win tonight. Just give me your thoughts. You're locked into the next round, but I'm sure a win was definitely in the cards for you today.
Yeah. The biggest thing was just the setup we were running. Honestly, we could only get about 35 to 36 laps on fuel, and these guys went like 38. I'm honestly shocked they made it, but like kudos, man. Like that's about 2-3 more laps than really any of us were able to do. Shane was able to, I think Shane even had like 36, 37 there at the end, and he was like the last guy to pit. So that's crazy. I didn't think anyone was actually going to be able to make it, but yeah, I mean, we gave it our all. The car was quick, and I don't know. I think the track was just a little too far gone. I fell off the hardest I did all race long there.
Yeah, Bronson, like we said, you're locked into the next round, but it's going to be Dega that we go up to for our first race of round 2. How are you feeling about going to a super speedway?
I don't know. We obviously the whole Luminary team, we didn't run Daytona, so this is going to be our first open setup plate track. So no idea what to expect setup wise or anything. So I don't know. It'll be an interesting week this week, trying to get some draft practice, see what happens, see what's quick or not. No idea, but I don't know. We'll see.
Was there really anything you could have done different down the last stretch of those things, or was that really all you were able to give to try and catch the 7 and the 2?
Well, honestly, I didn't think anyone was going to make it with when they pit. Otherwise, I would have ran longer before putting on the final set of tires just to have them for a little bit longer. The track was it was so hot and slick that I fell off quicker. Like everyone was falling off so much quicker than any other run, really. So the tires just burnt out way quicker. There's so much traffic and just kind of everything. But this just kind of didn't think anyone was going to make it, so thought we were, sitting good. But there's racing for you. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, certainly was a crazy one there, Bronson. But before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, really just, the whole Luminary team. I've been off the top 3 for a while, and they've been getting it done. But, we've had great speed, and hopefully I mean, we're gonna have to see how the points play out for like Kenny, and I think Munsell should be good. So I think it's just really Kenny to see if he made it into the next round or not. If not, I mean, we'll just have we're just gonna try our best as a team, try and get as many cars in the final four as possible, and see what happens. Really.
Yeah, I was looking at the points. I think Kenny might be about 8 points out of making it into the top 8. So not looking like 34 made it in unofficially from what we're seeing, but certainly we'll wait and see what the points are going to be like later on. But yeah, well, a great run for yourself, Bronson. You tried to make a comeback, just wasn't able to, but a great top 3 run.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, we'll now bring in our second place finisher. Been a minute since we talked to this guy, number 2 at Matt Dyer. Hey, Matt, this is Carlos and your brother Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
What a drive for you. Really, nothing really to run for other than the win itself, not in the playoff picture. But man, you were playing strategy and driving out there like you were in the playoffs. So just give me your thoughts on this incredible run for you today. A second place run behind Jacob Grant.
Yeah, it felt pretty good. Jacob and I, that whole after the second stage, we were trying to work out fuel and like how far we could go before and how much we had to save. And really, my whole outlook during these playoffs are just trying to steal as much points as I really can from the people in the playoffs.
Yeah, Matt. I mean, it was a solid chance from you to try to run down Jacob. We saw that Jacob was kind of in a save mode for a little bit, and you were just pushing. Did you know you were good to make it fuel wise once you came out of pit road?
Yeah, Jacob and I were both in the same Discord chat, so we were constantly communicating. And I had caps going as well, so it told me how far I could go, how much I need. Really needed to save as well. So, huge shout out to Caps, to put us 1-2.
Yeah, no, Matt, an incredible run for you tonight. I said that right before I brought you in that we don't really get to hear from you that often at the end of these races. It's either a wreck taking out early or just not finishing in the top 3. But this is a welcome sight to see some new blood getting into the top 3. How was that racetrack for you out there? Yeah, I know it's obvious to say, "Oh, it was slick, Carlos. You should know that." I was like, "Yeah, but it's slick for everyone, but in different ways." So, how was it for you?
Yeah, it was a little slick. For me, it was more on exit. Everywhere else, it felt pretty good. Us at CM, we set the car up to be looser. On the long run, so that definitely helps. I definitely didn't get as tight as everybody else on the long run, which it really helped on our long run pace where we could save the field there at the end.
And now, Matt, we head to the big behemoth itself, Talladega Superspeedway, next week. I'm not sure. I believe you didn't run Daytona, so this might be like for the guys at Luminary, might be a new-ish experience for you. What's the mindset going into the 2.66 Super Speedway?
I think just trying to just stay out of trouble. As long as you just keep it clean, just try to be there at the end. But that's the pretty cliche thing to say. But I think just trying to stay up towards the front is probably what I'm going to do. So that's my whole mindset: just be up towards the front. It also depends on if we can make a setup that's going to be competitive as well.
All right, Sam. Any final thoughts for Matt here?
No, just congratulations on a great run here today and finally not having to throw away a race in some fashion. But before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Just a huge shout out, to Spencer who got the VRS set for us. Raise Energy Rep Sports. I'm ambassador for them, so if you use BALD15 at repsports.com, you get 15% off of their products. So definitely shout out to them.
Alrighty, that was your second place finisher in the number 2 for CEM, Matt Dyer. Great run for you tonight, and best of luck to you at Talladega next week. You have a good night, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And for the first time this season, we're going to welcome today's race winner, Jacob Grant, into the FRN booth. Hey, Jacob, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yes, sir.
strategy is always paramount at a track like Atlanta, and today, if it's not already obvious, you played it to a T. Matt was telling us that you and him were talking back and forth in the chat, in your Discord chat, about how much we had to save and stuff like that, and it paid big dividends for you today. You get your first win of the year here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Just tell me what you're feeling right now.
Man, I am I'm a loss of words. I am like excited right now. I just I don't know what to do with my hands.
It was certainly a fun one for us to watch because we didn't know how this thing was going to end, Jacob. But we've been seeing that you had pace the last couple of weeks. Just unlucky circumstances have popped up, and it looked like it was about to happen again once you had contact with Bronson Stafford there a lap. I believe it was 25. But when you had that contact, got a little bit of damage. How did that change up your game plan for this race?
Um, I knew my car was faster than his on the outside, so I was trying to make it work. I felt like at a couple more laps I would have got around him. Then when we touched it, it gave me a little bit of front left damage, and I had to slow up and check up a lot so I didn't get into the wall. The car got a little looser at that point, so on that pit stop that I made right before the end of the last run, I tightened it up a little bit, and it just felt amazing after that.
Yeah, no, Jacob. Like I said, the strategy played out right. Let me just ask you, how much did you have left in the car when you hit the start-finish line before the checkered flag?
I ran out, so I gave Matt to do the honors of doing my burnouts for me, and I just sat there and watched him. Yeah, so it was a really great race, man. It was I don't know, I don't even know what to say.
Well, Jacob, it certainly was a great run, and now we get to go to Dega next week. Super Speedway Racing. How you feeling about going to the plate tracks?
I love plate tracks. I think it's great racing as long as everybody keeps their head about them, and I think we'll do well there again. Maybe CEM will let me return back to drive for them next race. We don't know. I may return as a high five member. We'll see.
Now, Jacob, we have a little tradition here at FRN for the top three to give shout outs at the end of their interview. So the floor is yours for anybody you want to give a shout out to.
First off, I would love to thank you guys for coming out and broadcasting every single week, week in, week out. It's you guys are doing an amazing job. I love even when I'm not racing, I love watching you guys. So I'd like to thank Clutch Drop for allowing me to race this year. I came in a little bit later in the season. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make the playoffs. I feel like I could have had a really good playoff run if I was, and if I came at the beginning of the season. I'd like to thank CEM for allowing me to race with them this race. Um, I would like to thank Rogue Energy, Kong Beer Bong, and King Gret Paints for sponsoring me. So I'm actually an ambassador for Rogue Energy with my code being Pillsbury5. So go get you some energy drinks.
All righty, Jacob, that was your race winner, Jacob Grant, getting the win. First win on the year. May not be the last one we see this season and into the future. Best of luck to you at Talladega next week. Go enjoy your win. Celebrate with an energy drink, however you're going to want to celebrate. But have a good rest of your night, and we will see you at Talladega.
Thank you so much.
And that'll about wrap things up. Sam, what a race this afternoon from Atlanta. A long one, a little bit longer than I was expecting, certainly. Same probably for you, but it provided for an incredible run to the finish with strategy and just everything in between that this track brings forward.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy we saw it coming in with there being no caution for stage 1 or 2, the possibility of this thing going green all the way through, except for those stage cautions. It was up in the air of, oh, this is possible. And we knew that it was going to be about who can have that fuel strategy run. And it was going to be Jacob Grant, Matt Dyer doing a great job on their part. Bronson Stafford tried to muscle his way back after them trying their strategy out and it just not working out to plan. But I think the biggest thing that came out of this race was the fact that it was an elimination race. We were going from 12 drivers hunting for a championship down to 8, and some drivers that were inside the top 8 just did not perform. There were unlucky moments that happened, but Robert Kenny, Tristan Maher, as well as David Duran and Nathan Hall, no longer going to be in the playoffs, but you can be now pushing in Justin Munsell and also Philip Scott. Both those drivers playing the playoff game, getting the stage points, and also getting great finishing results here at the end.
So that, with that said, unofficially, your top 8 entering in, and we're still waiting on the official point count from the league admins. They'll definitely make it known on social media who will be the top 8 entering Talladega. Unofficially, Shane Terrian with his win at Kentucky, he is in. Mike Tellier with his performance today. Tom Bourne, Bronson Stafford, Brandon King, Dylan Stipe, and then Sam said, Justin Munsell and Philip Scott come from the brink of elimination to work their way into the top 8 when we head to Talladega next week. That's the kind of drama that this kind of racing brings, and it paid off big today for Philip Scott and for Justin Munsell with their 6th and 7th place finishes. Sam, what a great race today. Always a pleasure to have you in the booth here.
Yeah, it certainly is always a pleasure to be up in the booth with you, Carlos. Cannot wait to see what the round of 8 is going to be given up to us, Dega and also Chicagoland, before we figure out our final 4.
Final race will be at Charlotte, but like Sam said, next week, same time, same great channel. We'll be right back here on the Flatout Racing Network, January 24th, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, for the big race at the Talladega Superspeedway, race number 18 on the season, race number 3 in the playoffs, 120 laps of action from Talladega. But that's not the only thing we got going on this week. This race today kicks off a plethora of racing this week. Going to go through it really quickly for you guys. Coming up, we have a holiday tomorrow, so the day off on FRN. But on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central, the G4 Sim Racing Grand National Series, they are going to be at Dover, round 11 in Season 1 for them. And then a doubleheader on Wednesday night as the Dark Horse IndyCar Series is right here in Hampton, Georgia, in Atlanta, race number 3 in Season number 3 for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. And then later that night, actually just an hour after the Dark Horse race gets underway, Sarg Superspeedway will be racing at Talladega. So that'll be their second race on the year for them. And then coming up on Thursday, the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge continues for them, round number 3, season 52 for the guys at RTG. And then on Friday night, if I'm not mistaken, it'll be the Rolling Thunder Gaming 358 Modifieds and Limited Dirt Late Models race from USA Speedway, round number 3 for them. And that leads everything to here next week at Talladega. A lot of Talladega coming up this week on the Flatout Racing Network. For Sam Dyer, my name is Carlos Zimmerman, reminding you all to just remember to lend a hand of support to everyone in this time of COVID-19. We need all each other to help each other get through this time. So when you find yourself in that spot, lend a hand of support to someone. We all need it. Good night, and God bless from Hampton, Georgia. We'll see you at Talladega next week.